I'll finish this, and we're live. Um,
Howdy, all you folks in live land.
Howdy. We were just sort of in the middle of talking about some stuff, so I'm gonna finish my story with Ed, and then we'll kind of move on to the show. We're talking about slabs and graded and stuff like that. But there was a local shop that was doing a Facebook live sale, and and so I own two slabs. One was free, and one I won at an auction because I was trying to help the shop drive up the price of the book. And now I don't bid on anything that I'm not willing to spend the money on. So the so I knew, hey, $20, I'll pay $20 for this. But it was a blind slab. So you didn't know what it was until it got to a certain price range. And apparently $20 was the price range he was looking for. But he kept giving hints and clues. It was a 9 point, I forget what it is, 9.6, 9.8, I don't know.
Oh, nice.
But it is a second print of Slam #1 for Boom. And I didn't realize there was a second print of that book. And so when they revealed what it was, I was like, well, I kind of want that now. But I was like, I'm not spending more than $20. And so I just sort of expected, okay, it's a slab. People are going to start bidding more. Nobody bid on it. I ended up winning it for $20. I was like, okay, fine. But yeah, other than that, yeah, I stay away from slabs. I don't have any interest. I like to read my books. I get why people do it as far as the like, oh, look, I got this, nice, book. It's not ever going to be damaged. Sure, if that's what you like.
I think I don't appreciate why they do it. It's to make money.
Oh, sure.
That's the only reason.
I think there's clout chasing that goes with it at times.
Okay. Yeah, flexing, I guess you can. Yeah. But
Right.
and my biggest issue with that, I will never, ever put somebody down for wanting to make money.
Oh, sure.
I mean, it might not be the best thing in the world to do, but here in America, we have all been born in that and raised that way. So it's an ingrained part of our culture, like, breathing and eating breakfast and whatever here in the US.
Yep.
But I'm getting to that point where I want something to have value of its own, not somebody get into it to make money off of it.
Oh, sure.
I've now watched as podcasting has become that.
Oh, yeah.
And now, now that podcasting has already done that, I look back at the hobby that I have loved for as long as I've loved any hobby, comic books, and now it's starting to be all money driven, all money driven. And I'm just like, come on, guys, can we not have anything because it's fun,
just for the
or
fun
it's
of
pretty, or it's whatever, nothing. Somebody has to make a buck on everything. I'm just okay. Yeah, I'm just. Ugh. Hey, Doug, what's up, man? Yeah, we're doing pretty good. I'm up on my soapbox wine, and I'll step back down. It's because of the beard. When it came off, I felt freer.
He let loose.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
All that energy just doesn't have anywhere to like.
Right, it was all pent up now,
and
now so I'm expelling it.
So it's all over the place now. It's great. It's fun. Yeah. So I mean, that's the thing. It's like I enjoy collecting. I've always bought and sold comics. It's just I've done it since the early days of Valiant, way back in the 90s, before eBay, doing it on Craigslist and classifieds and stuff like that.
Say what? There was a before eBay?
Yeah,
what?
It was before eBay.
What?
I mean, I was part of that crowd who jumped onto eBay as soon as it started.
Dude, what is that? Over 20 years ago?
Yeah, I know it's longer than that. I mean, it's older than my oldest son.
2022 now. Okay.
Yeah. Well, maybe 20, 23
It's right.
years.
It's right at between like 20 and 25, I think. So
yeah.
Wow.
So yeah, it's just. I mean, and I've run all gamuts with buying and selling comics, especially with eBay, to the point where early on, and I know I've told you this before, but coming home from watching Phantom Menace, the opening night, coming home to a voicemail, or excuse me, it was on the answering machine. It wasn't voicemail.
Ooh,
Yeah.
yeah.
And it was a detective from New York who was investigating a guy who was scamming people on eBay, and
Mhm.
and I had bought stuff from him. And I had never got, I didn't get my stuff, but it was still sort of early in the phase for me where it had been like maybe a month, and there was some contact between me and him, but he apparently had been scamming people for months on end.
Oh,
But
and you were
he was up in New York, and they needed
you
my,
were just another victim.
yeah, and so they were, I had to talk to a detective for a while, and so I mean, but that really is the only, you know, serious situation.
Right.
But yeah, but I mean, yeah, it's been good to me. I haven't had any major issues. Doug, I don't buy slab stuff myself. I like to read my yeah, exactly. And
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
kind of where
that's
we're getting at. Yeah.
well, you think how much of any price that you pay, it actually turns out to be the price of that piece of plastic that the book is in.
Yeah.
Because if you buy it raw, it's not gonna be that same price, which to me
Oh yeah.
means you're jacking up the price because it's in plastic and that's it? Oh,
Hmm.
come on, man. That's yeah, no,
Yeah.
I don't. And I'm I see, which I guess I never really thought about it, but I see they do sports cards
Yeah.
that same way.
Yeah. They've
Put
been doing
put
that,
them
yeah, for a long
put them
time
in
too. Yeah.
plastic. Yeah, I'm like, wow,
Now it's
yeah.
become more of a, I mean, it's always been a thing, but pandemic, everybody's
Yeah,
stimulus checks,
I
everybody,
guess,
some
whatever.
people had extra money, and stuff like that. So like I was going through my eBay numbers this afternoon from last year, and had completely forgotten that there was a short period of time that I bought and sold sports cards,
Mhm.
and it was and I mean, I remember doing it, but I didn't remember how much money I made off of it, and I ended up making, like, it was about almost a third of what I sold last year as a whole came from sports cards.
Okay.
And, like, I contemplated a lot on sending stuff in to be graded so that I could get that bump,
Sure.
but it's the
Make
time, it's the cost, it's
making
the
money.
yeah.
I
So
won't I
it's,
won't bitch at anybody for doing it. I just,
it's like right now I'm sitting on a all new it's the all new Ultimate Comics Spider-Man. It's the second appearance of Miles Morales. It's the
okay.
first issue of his Spider-Man series.
Okay.
So he first appears in Ultimate Comics Fallout number 4. That issues, depending on if it's raw or graded, it could be $1,000 or whatever, or more. I forget what it is now. I haven't looked at it in a long time.
That's just insane.
Yeah, it's insane. But even the raw copy's that much too. I mean, the raw copy's pretty expensive. Um, but it's the contemplation of, do I want to sell this? Do I want to keep this? And then, so I haven't really decided what I want to do with that issue, because I remember buying that issue, and there are very few issues that I own because I own so many that I remember when I bought it and I
Mhm.
remember what was going on at the time. And that's just one of those books.
Right.
I'd forgotten that I still had it. Actually, I didn't have it. It was in one of the long boxes that my son has. And he has like all the Valiant stuff, all the Teen Titan stuff, Flash, Green Arrow. He's got all those books. But for some reason, in a small section of one of those boxes, there was some like Avenger stuff, just some stuff I think he pulled out of my stuff to read one day, years and years and years ago, and
Right.
just kept, just never get 'em ba and so I just never paid attention to it. So we were going through it one day, and lo and behold, there it is. And I'm like, I know this book's, $100 raw copy, but if I got it, cleaned and, pressed or whatever, it'd probably be a nice 9.2, 9.4, and, get a decent price. But it's one of those things. It's like I have bought and sold several collections over the years, to the point where I had like one small box left. And in that small box, there's always certain titles like no one knows what this miniseries is, but Leading Man from Oni Press.
Mhm.
It's Jeremy Hahn, and Hurley, and I forget who the artist on it. Maybe it was Jeremy Hahn that drew it. But either way, nobody cares about that book. But I remember when I bought it. I remember where I was. I remember being a big fan of it. I remember talking to Jeremy Hahn about it years and years later at Heroes Con. He signed it, talked to me about it, talked about it being in development hell, about being a TV series, that I never knew about, those kind of things. So I'm sort of, I would never sell that book.
Sure.
Now, I would probably slab those books because I don't want anything to happen to them, because I'm done reading them. I have the trade paperback. I don't need it. I know the story inside and out. So to keep it in good condition, maybe I would slab it.
Nah, put it in the safety deposit box.
Okay. All right.
Yeah,
I get you. All right. Well, let's go ahead and get things rolling here. What time is it? 10, 9, 11. All right. So tonight's episode is not brought to you by Black Rifle, the Espresso Mocha. I am a big Black Rifle coffee fan. And
never heard of it.
They sell them various places. But there's a place in Savannah that we would drive by called Nine Line, and it's a big military surplus store kind of thing. Okay. But they sell it there, and so anyway, we would go there. They have a coffee shop. We'd go in there and hang out, drink coffee or whatever. So we just got to be big fans of it. And I was at Sam's Club the other day, and they had a 12 pack of this, and I was like, oh sweet, I'll go ahead and pick that up. Yeah, nobody here at the house likes it. It's not good. So it's probably been here for a month. So I'm just like, all right, I'll take it upstairs. I'll drink it during the episode. It'll be fun. So Doug said, I grew up buying off the spinner racks, and all my books have. Yes.
Amen, 100%. Doug, because that's not what mattered. What mattered is what was in between the covers. Exactly. That's what matters. So I'm getting ready to take that step back up on that platform. Man.
Well, here's the thing. I am very sad when it comes to some of the early books I used to have. Like that got me started in comics. ElfQuest, G.I. Joe, Transformers, Dreadstar.
Oh man, we all have those stories. It's like, if only
those things have. I read them so much, and just laid them around. They're torn. I just wish I still had those.
Well, and that's how they're intended to be. I mean, honestly. Well, I guess not necessarily so much today. Look at Dynamite. That's not why Dynamite makes books.
Heck no.
But once upon a time, you could hold on to them, give them to your children. That's fine.
Yeah.
But they want to be the investment. Okay. You weren't going to look back 25 years from now and see a comic in the mid 80s that you can't get because wrapped in plastic, it's worth $25,000. Supposedly worth.
Right.
It's
worth whatever you want to pay for it.
Well, yeah. And unfortunately, not to me.
Oh yeah. No, that's right. No, and I've told this to you before. I cringe at spending, 20, 25 bucks on a book.
On one single issue of that's like, ooh.
But I know you and Terry,
and you can get 50 cent books for that.
Yeah. But I know you and Terry, y'all have your collections. Like she's big into Wonder Woman, so y'all have done that. And Thor, you've done that with. I think, aren't you doing Avengers or something like that too?
I did Avengers. Yeah, I stopped because I've got like 10 or 12 of the 5-digit books left. I'm like,
so it is that thing, and so it's like
I don't see it happening.
It's like you have to sort of put, you have to personally,
right,
at an individual level, have to decide. This is my limit.
There's that bar. Yeah.
And the fortunate part for me is most of the stuff that I'm super into is dirt cheap. There are some things that are expensive, yes.
Right. But yeah.
Like I'm not spending $30 on a Cyberforce back issue. Now, if I want the ash cans, I got to spend a little money, but I'm not as in a big rush to get those.
Right.
But but yeah, for a regular issue, I'm not doing, unfortunately, like our buddy Mike Smith, and that year gap that he stopped buying Spawn happened to be the year that the print run was super low.
Small.
And
Yeah.
so those issues are $100 now
Yeah.
because there's like
Yeah.
5,000, copies of them out there. So yeah. Mr.
All
Mike
right. So we
Myers in the
have
house.
Mike Myers in the house. That's awesome. Doug, the turtles, did you buy those as they were coming out? Just curious, because I would have loved to have been swept up in that as those were coming out, but
Yep.
I missed the turtles, so I wasn't a part of that.
Yeah.
And Mike, response to your final comment there, you can call me Eddie if you want. It's cool. I don't care. I know that's not what you were going for, but that's how I would read that.
I didn't see that. Yeah,
Eddie. Yeah, that's cool.
Adia.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, let's get the show started here. Appreciate everybody for joining us here for a little banner at the beginning. This is episode 143. I'm excited. We're getting close to 150.
143.
I don't know what that means, though. I
don't know.
It sounds like a number I should be excited for.
I know what it means, Chris.
What does that mean?
It means over here in the sideboard, we can charge these people more to listen in.
Woo-hoo.
That's what 150 means.
Is that what that means?
That's exactly what it means.
Okay, sure. We're gonna have less listeners. Yay. Yeah. All right. That's sad. All right, in 3, 2, 1. Hey everybody, welcome back to Comic Addiction. This is episode 143. I'm one of your hosts. I almost said host. That'd have been weird. One of your co-hosts. Wow.
I'm not a host.
Gonna keep pushing through that one. Not gonna do a retake. So Chris Martin's my name, and with me as always is Mr. Ed Babyface Moore. Ed, how are you?
Yeah, I am much lighter. I am feeling the breeze quite a bit more, and just got tired of it. So off it came, all the way down. That way, like a good garden, you can shape and tend as it grows out. And so that's what I'm gardening my face. Yeah, that's what you. I mean, if it's called manscaping, why not?
There you go.
Yep.
And that'll do it for the episode tonight, folks.
Thank you.
Manscaping.
We'll be here next
same
week.
Sentence. If you were listening to us on the audio show, you're welcome. If you are, or if you're curious on Ed's clean baby face, you can come by the YouTube channel and check it out.
Yeah, just jump over. We're at about 18:15 now, so go back to about 17:30. You're good to go.
You're good to go. So. To wrap up this one conversation we were having before the show, Doug, yes, I was able to get to a comic shop every month. He's talking about, Doug was talking about Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles when it was coming out. So he was able to pick it up as it was coming out, which is awesome.
Some of them, he said, wasn't able to get, so he got some, but some he missed and was able to pick up over time. Yeah,
I ended up getting the big art books or the big collected editions, the treasury editions. That's for some reason I switched from single issues to that and loved those.
I'm not sure that the same kind of excitement can even exist today as it did then. I mean, how did anybody know, if anybody knew, that there were only a couple hundred copies of Teenage Ninja Mutant Turtles Volume 1 first printing available? You found out that it was coming out and you got one, or, truly, you just missed out. But fortunately, they wanted to make money, so they're like, oh, we need to pump out some more. Second printing, 15th printing, 16th printing, so nowadays, you have the multiple printings, but I think a lot of that is done in the office. I don't think it's done because of us, to be honest with you. And this is after listening and watching Boom in particular, because at the time I was focused on the one company, and so I'm like, Yeah, okay, sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think like so many other things now, that is manufactured as well. Oftentimes, not every time, but I think oftentimes it's manufactured. This is a cool book. Normally our first issues go out to the tune of 5,500. Let's print 4,000, and we'll put
Yeah.
this hot book out there, and we'll
See what
seriously. I,
happens.
I truly believe that that's what happens, and then you know, yeah. So, anyways, a lot of that information is manufactured. It's well, and like other people have said, well, what do you mean it's sold out? I can go down to my comic shop and see 15 of those on the wall.
Mhm.
How is that sold out? Well, that's not what they mean. They don't care what you do. All they know is here in my warehouse, I have none, zero.
Yeah.
That's sold
Yeah.
out.
Yep.
So, you know,
So, Doug, I don't know if I've told you the story, but I owned early issues of TMNT due to a massive throwing star um, trade with a buddy of mine growing up. It's the story
okay.
that keeps giving. So
Yeah,
it
whatever
made
is
perfect sense.
important,
If I had I had a massive collection of throwing stars. So
whatever is important is important. So
yep.
that's,
I
yeah.
need my comics. So,
Yeah.
all right. So,
All
we're
right.
going to change things up a little bit here, much like we did last week. We're going to cover FOC for for August 8th. And then we're going to touch a little bit on August solicitations. So, Mike says, I almost have almost all team except for Archie.
Are the Archies hard to find, Mike, or
Hmm.
have you just not dived into those? I'd be curious to know. All right. So we will
So,
start our
yeah. So, let's
FOC.
jump into the FOs. Let me pull it up on my other screen.
And my first one
Uh,
that I took note of was,
Give me a sec. There it is.
there it
I got
is,
clicky clicky.
New Rat City from Scout Comics. Now, right off the bat, what grabbed my attention was I got an Exterminators feel from this book.
Oh,
I
nice.
absolutely dug Exterminators when it was coming out. I I, I see, that that'd be a concept kind of tough to take to 150, 200 issues, but I wish it would have gone longer.
Oh yeah, I remember. Man, I hadn't thought about that book in a long
Oh,
time.
I
Nice.
dug that book. The
Yeah.
first 10 or 12 issues when you had no idea what was going on,
Hmm.
the pacing and the build up, and it's like, what? More of that?
Yep.
Man, yeah. Did a really good job of keeping me in the book. I was with those guys as they were going out trying to tackle these different things, and my curiosity was building as theirs did. Oh, Mike's not interested in the Archie TMNT. Okay, cool beans. Uh, Mike, good on you for being able to exert that type of control. I do not have that type of control. If they have an X in the title, I put it on my list to get at some point. I just
For sure.
I buy everything X. And so I need to exert that kind of control, but I don't want to, I guess. I don't know. But that's cool.
And Doug's right.
For peanuts.
Selling his for peanuts. Yeah, that's pretty much what I did too. Yeah, I
All
totally
right.
get that.
Back here for New Rat City. For those of you guys that I don't know if you can read this or not. Let me um well, it's 2083, and there's not much left of New York City after years of floods, pests, and infrastructure mismanagement. The only people keeping the city habitable for its few remaining residents are the pest controllers, and humane laws mean they generally aren't allowed to kill. Felicia Shepard is a pest controller who has recently taken over the family business after her mother disappeared and a rat related incident took her dad out of commission. Now, that right there put me in mind of exterminators.
Yeah, I did.
Felicia does the best she can for her clients, but her job becomes much harder when swarms of unnervingly organized pests start running rampant across the city. Exterminators. I mean,
Oh,
those
for
those
sure.
last couple lines, I'm like,
Yeah.
you had to have read Exterminators and just wanted to expand on that concept because that screamed to me. So
Uh,
that's what drew my attention. Plus the cover. I don't know really anything about Honor Vincent or George
mhm.
Quadros, but the cover just looks cool. So I'm like, okay.
Yep. I'm gonna have to. I'm glad you brought this one up. I'm gonna put this on my list at the shop. That just it sounds fun. At least even for the first issue. Give it a
Sure,
shot.
absolutely. And Scout Comics, we know a little bit about what Scout Comics has done, so it's not like it's a brand new company with this concept, and you're thinking, "Oh man, I hope they don't mess that up." Because
Yep.
no, Scout Comics, yeah, they've got some latitude and leeway, particularly, or not particularly, but with me, without speaking for you.
Yeah. Well, Hyper Potato is in the house. He
Oh,
showed up a little late. You were supposed to call him apparently.
dag, Hyper. I'm
So
sorry, dog.
I just
I
want
got on
everybody to
here and
understand
talking
that
to Chris, and I just lost track, man. I'm sorry.
I've got to say, Ed does not speak for the brand, and so if he failed, that was on him. That's not on us. Um, Sorry about that with the drink.
Wait, Chris, you want to go ahead and back that bus up again, man, so you can just toss me into there. Be sure.
But I like the fact that Mike said,
Barb read it. That's
"Yep,
cool.
yeah, that's
Yes.
awesome." So all right, so jumping over to my first pick is Alice Ever After number 505. It's the last issue of this series. Dan Panosian. If you, it's really hard to recommend the last issue of a miniseries, and I know a lot of people are probably like, I don't understand. It is it. This is more, it's more for me to talk about it and more for you to be aware if you missed out on
Yeah.
this miniseries.
As a whole.
There will be a trade paperback, and
Yes.
I highly recommend picking it up if you can't get the single issues for whatever reason. So it is beautiful art and crazy psychedelic storytelling. It is, definitely a story that Dan has been wanting to tell for a while. He's You can tell he's invested in it, and it's been fun from the very start, up until the fourth issue is what we've already read. So this is more of a, yeah, fifth issue if you want to, or just be reminded that it's out there, but it's definitely a reminder that the trade paperback is coming, and that you definitely want to be on the lookout for it.
I agree. I second, third, fourth. All right. My next pick is Blade in the Dark, number one from Black Caravan. It is by Morgan Quaid, Willie Roberts, with a cover by Rich Woodall. And the blurb tells us they came masked in the dead of night and burned the village to ash. Rook of the hidden song, sole survivor to his people, must seek vengeance. Yet the path ahead is strewn with hidden dangers. Monstrous creatures inhabiting the skins of the dead, and dying human soldiers warped by supernatural forces, and rogue gods intent on mischief and destruction. Come on, I mean, come on.
Dude.
Yeah. Rook must cut a path of blood and reclaim the treasured heart of his ashen village, or die in the attempt and take his place alongside his slaughtered kin. To me, that blurb does everything that it's supposed to do to get you to buy the book. You know,
And this is definitely
so
a book that looks like it's in your wheelhouse. Like this
yes,
is,
yeah, it seems to be drawn on that feudal Japanese, maybe Edo era type setting at the very least. I don't know that Rook or Hidden Song really are Japanese. They
right,
may
yeah.
just be incorporating those elements. But yeah, this is definitely something right up my alley. And again, this cover. This is by a different artist than what's inside, but I mean, just he's got a katana, he's dressed quasi, maybe not a full samurai, but maybe more like the backwoods kind of peasant samurai that there were. I'm like, okay, again, one issue, I'll try it and see. If not,
Yeah.
i'm out I'm out what, four, maybe four and a quarter, because of my
Yeah.
discount, something
Yeah.
like that. So I'm like, okay, I can handle that.
Give it a
I'll
shot.
be entertained, maybe not entertained enough to keep it going, but I know I'll be entertained during reading of the book. So
Oh yeah.
that's all I need.
Hyper ass, did Black Caravan leave Scout, or is it still in it? That I don't know. I don't know a lot about either publisher, to be
I don't know,
honest.
Mike might know a little bit more about that. Yeah, I thought Black Caravan was a imprint of Scout, but it has its own imprint on the cover, and I don't see Scout anywhere on the cover. So,
Yeah.
and it had its own listing, obviously, because that's how it came up in previews is under
Yeah.
Black Caravan. So, I'm not sure. Good question.
Yep. All right. So my next pick is Vampirella Year One. I talked about the first issue, I guess last episode.
Mhm.
Christopher Priest, Irgun Gundas, and Derek
Ergen
Chu.
Gundas, and Colette Turner.
So the history of the world continues, having fled the elite underground city of New Yzma to hide from Lilith's enemies. The preteen Vampirella takes refuge on the surface world, which has been ravaged by drought caused by her mother's machinations. Machinations. That's a Robotech
You're
thing.
right. She gets in a big lion-shaped
Yeah,
robot or
yeah.
no, I'm sorry.
Taken
Gets
taken in
another
by a wealthy aristocrat, Vampileron's compassion for Draculon's underclass, which leads to a comical petty theft that brings Vampy into confrontation with with her mother's mysterious lieutenant, who is certain to expose the child's secret and ruin Vampy's one chance to escape her mother's influence. All this in the origin of the planet Draculon and the mysterious alternate reality of Earth known as Arcadia. Um, I am I'm a big fan of this series. I mean, just one issue in. The art is great. The writing, I mean, it's Christopher Priest. I mean, I really didn't feel like I was going to be missing out on something like, oh, we're going to take a chance on Christopher Priest. He's done very well with the Vampirella property for the last couple of years. So it's sort of been in his control. So I'm pretty stoked about it. As far as a preteen Vampirella, I mean, we've never had that
Mm-mm,
I can recall. I
I
mean,
don't
we've
think so.
obviously had, you know, stuff about her being younger and everything, but definitely not preteen. Um, and as long as Derek Chu does covers, I'm just going to keep picking those up because this is more reflective of what's in the book than any of the other covers. So
I don't know. I'm kind of looking at this. I believe it's the Colette Turner cover with the typical vampy suit, only in whitish or silver. You've seen
yeah,
that
I've
cover?
seen
Yeah,
those.
with the
Yeah,
little gold what is it, womb plate on the outfit there. Yeah, it's okay.
yeah. No,
Um,
none of that does anything for me. So.
ah, if only John were here, he'd be all over that.
Yeah. So Mike
Um,
Myers, they took the horror imprint away, but it's still part of Scout, I believe. Okay.
okay, okay.
And
And
Mike would definitely have a better idea than we would. So
Mike is the one man that we must ensure continues to buy comic books,
yes.
because if Mike were to stop, the industry would crumble. They would not be able to make enough money to keep printing. So we owe that all to Mike. So
Yep.
we should recognize Mr. Myers and his wonderful efforts to support our hobby. Um, Up there above, Doug said that Alice is really great. I've been really enjoying it. Yeah, I have too, Doug.
Oh yeah, for sure. Listener, is used
Oh
my
yeah.
usual dynamite go to. Oh, for sure. And Jimmy
Oh,
Brockton is also.
absolutely.
Oh, definitely. And that's the thing. And I think we may have talked about it on the show. Maybe it was on Twitter, but I've noticed over the last year or so, maybe a little longer, but definitely in the last year or so, that Dynamite's always had really, really good cover artists. I mean,
Hmm.
I don't think anybody will argue that.
No, you can't argue that.
But it's the interior art that has sort of been hit or miss.
Yeah.
And so I've been really excited to see a lot of these new series that have started over the last couple, year or so, have gotten really good. And they're artists that I don't know, or very familiar with. And so they've, really stepped up, getting in some really, really talented folks to interior art. And it makes me excited to read their books again, which has sort of not been a thing for me lately.
To be honest, they really needed to, because the way they started pumping out covers,
Yeah.
and just some eye-catching covers, and so people would buy, and the art inside, we all learned several years ago that there seldom is a connection between the artist inside and outside.
Oh,
Okay,
for
we
sure.
got
Yeah.
that. But man, when you do a Linsner cover, and then you
Yeah.
open it up and it's a first year college
Right.
art school grad, it's like, oh,
Uh,
come on now.
you had me.
In other industries, that
You
would be
got my
called bait and
money. I mean,
switch, and it's illegal. So I mean,
Yes.
let's not be careful
Uh,
now.
yeah.
All right. And my third pick, much like Chris, this is a volume, not the first, but the second volume of The Country Without Humans. It's a manga. The reason that I highlighted it is because it gives me an opportunity to bring this manga to people's attention. This is probably my favorite new manga that I have picked up over the last year and a half. Fascinating, fascinating story. The little girl here that is being held. We start the story with her waking up one day and realizing that her family, all of her neighbors, any other humans that she was familiar with are gone. As far as she knows, she is the only human. And through the first volume, she is the only human that she has been able to encounter. Now, the world is broken up into very hyper inclusive cities. They're not necessarily 2000 AD walled cities, but they are very, very self-contained because human beings got to the point where every task has been mandated to automation, typically robots or androids. So everything from cooking and cleaning to sex workers to shop owners, all of the menial physical tasks are robot driven. So basically, the all of the human needs except personal needs are taken care of by robots. And then this girl wakes up in that world being the only human being. So she wants to find the other humans, if there are any, find out what happened to them. All of the robots need something to do as she's wandering around. So they all try to do for her.
Oh, yeah.
But, she doesn't necessarily have that particular need or doesn't understand or is moving around because she's searching. She has a bodyguard robot, the Bulb, his name is
Mhm.
here. That's what she calls him. And then the triangle heads are these big robots that look like what the horror movie
Oh, yeah.
that's
Yeah.
got the just the big triangle on the body in place of the
Yeah.
head. They are ruling elite guard robots that for some reason are looking for her. Now, that makes you think that, well, there must be humans up at that level and they're gathering human beings because there aren't that many left. So they're trying to get her. Well, or at least that's what I'm reading into it.
Right. Yeah.
I suspect that that's not what's going on. Cool beans. Doug, me and you, man, we got to
Do
meet, dog. We
do I
we are
need to
just on
just slide over
so
or
many. Well,
and
Chris,
let
I,
you
I mean,
2
it's
to am I
dude, that's
am I
awesome. It's nice to know that I'm not on this island at least by myself. At least there's two of us touting decent manga So, but yeah, it's just probably my right now my second or third favorite manga that I buy, and I'm up to about probably 15 different ones that I keep up with.
Oh,
So,
wow. Cool.
and they're not the biggies. Like I don't read One Piece, and
That
I
was the
don't.
first one I was gonna say. I was like, "Do
Yeah,
you
no,
read One
I don't
Piece?"
read that. I did read Attack of the Titans, which was pretty popular.
Right.
But most of mine are, I would probably say, a little bit more on the obscure side. I don't really hear about them too much. Um, Only one of the ones that I buy have I heard them mention on Manga Splaining, which is probably one of the hot manga podcasts out there right now. So, I don't know. I read what I read. Drifting
There was
Dragons, if anybody's interested, is my favorite manga right now. So,
there was a small stretch of time back when I lived in Georgia. So that's 10 years ago or whatever. Um, I dove into horror manga for a year or so.
ooh.
And I
So are you
read
reading Junji Ito?
I couldn't tell you
You
any of the
you
names.
don't no names? Okay.
I've got the books. I've still got the books down in
Okay.
my storage bins or whatever in the garage. But yeah, there was I forget what it was. We were still doing, writing reviews and stuff for the website and everything. So at that time. So it was we had somebody who was doing manga, and then they just couldn't. They stopped writing for whatever reason, something
Mm.
like that. And I was like, oh, but I really feel like this is because it was a small section of the website, but it was, a lot of people were checking it out. So I was like,
Okay.
okay, well, somebody needs to do this. So what better than letting the guy who doesn't read any manga start picking up manga, and trying to pretend he knows what he's talking
Death
about.
Note, was Death Note one of them?
I did pick up Death Note after the fact, because my
Back then?
son was
Okay.
actually, my son got interested in it maybe a couple years in after that.
Okay. Probably
Um,
because of the anime.
and he's more of a manga guy.
Okay.
He doesn't buy a lot of manga, but it's one of those things he knows a lot about them for whatever.
Mhm.
He's a Wikipedia reader. I don't know what he does, how he knows it. But yeah, so whenever something like that comes up, he always, is the expert in the room on it. But yeah, so I've never gotten back into that stuff, but I really didn't enjoy sort of that, just the stories. They were really kind of crazy, shocking, scary, which I'm a horror guy, so that was something I really, really dug. So
Doug, if you listen to podcasts, I definitely would recommend Manga Splaining. It's four people, all of which, to some extent or another, actually are conversant in Japanese. Uh, all the way to where one of them is actually a translator, Japanese to English, I guess both ways. I'm
oh,
sorry,
cool.
translator. And so they're four very different personalities. There are uh, queer and straight hosts. There are male and female. There are age differences. So they one will pick, and the other three, and they of course have to read it and talk about it. So the ability to choose manga covers just a huge spread of topics between the four of them, and they do a really good job. They've got a Substack uh, paper where they're releasing a newly translated manga for free on their free Substack letter. Um, so manga splaining, they're doing a really good job of cultivating a nice little group of listeners and everything like that. It's an excellent manga show if you're at all interested.
Cool. I'll have to check that out. That sounds give me reintroduced into it all. That'd be kind of cool. All right, so my last pick is Everfrost. It's a trade paperback, Black Mass Comics. The reason I'm suggesting this is I read the series and really enjoyed it, and did not know a trade was coming out, and I just didn't have anywhere to talk about it until hey, look, podcast.
You have a
So
podcast. There
I
you
have a
go.
podcast now. So now this is written by Ryan Lindsay, art by Sammy Cavella.
Cavella.
Um, the art in it, superb, really, really good. Um, Ryan Lindsay is a guy I have known for a very long time. We're not like, pen pals or anything like that, but he was part of the Process podcast that Comic Addiction used to host a
Oh
long time
yes,
ago
okay. I remember
with
that.
oh Lord, I blanked, with Jeremy Holt and Curtis Weeb. So they were the co-hosts of that. And then there was a second volume of it that had Ed Brisson and I forget who else was on it. But yeah, so really it was really good podcast, and we still have the episodes. I think are still in the feed if you go way, way back. But he was one of the right. He has, he's over in Australia. He's a school teacher. I think it's elementary school teacher. But he writes comics at night.
Cool beans.
And has done. I pick up as much of his stuff as I can get a hold of. There's been some Kickstarter stuff that I missed out on just because I just waited too long. But he's done stuff with Black Mask. He's done stuff with Comics Tribe. He did a hardcover book that Comics Tribe put out called She. That was really good. He did a sort of newspapery, kind of like a Wednesday comics type book called Skyscraper. That was really good. so he does a book every so often, I guess as he gets time, gets a publisher or whatever. But I have always picked up his stuff whenever I can. So I he and Jeremy Holt are two guys that I try and pick up all their stuff whenever they come out, just because listening to that podcast, listening to sort of their, them really learning the process of being comic writers and stuff like that, was fun for me, who is somebody who likes to understand sort of the nuts and bolts of how everything gets put together. And so it was a good show. And so it's one of those things, you listen to them, you kind of get to know the guys and everything, and you just sort of want to support everything that they do. So yeah, just another book. Highly recommend if you didn't check out the miniseries. Mike, he's bought that but hasn't read it, and that I think is a story that we could all share.
Oh, absolutely. But my question also elevates to this. Mike, you keep up with your comics pretty well, as far as organization. What percentage of the books that you own would you say that you have not read?
That's a good question too.
Because for you to keep up with what I believe you buy every month, that is an undertaking.
Yeah. Oh, for
And to
sure.
do that month in and month out is just that's an almost uphill battle to be able to do that. But just out of curiosity, do you have like a percentage of how much you still have to read of what you have? All right. So
Oh, about he says about 25,000 unread.
unread. How many
Holy
books do you
cow.
have, Mike? Um,
Oh,
I know you've put that out on Twitter before.
it's like 88,000 or something like
Yeah,
that.
something like that. Yeah. So it's more than a quarter, but not a third, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Doug's having a heart attack.
Oh,
So if
Doug,
you're
you have got to follow Mike on Twitter, Doug. Out of
yeah,
88,000. Wow,
yep.
that is whew, dude.
I do highly recommend, if you are listening to us after the fact on the audio portion of the show, that if you do get a chance, you don't have to come and watch us live, but if you do get a chance to come by and check out the show on YouTube and go through the chat and everything. We don't talk about everything that gets talked about in the chat, because eventually, folks are just chatting amongst themselves, which is great, which is the whole point of wanting to have the chat. But we do welcome all of you guys. Even if you can only stop by for a couple of minutes, join in with the chat, get to know some folks, share some Twitter handles, stuff like that, so you guys can keep up with one another. Mike is one of those guys who Ed and I have known who he is for a very, very, very long time, since the Comic Geek Speak,
Since
forum days.
Rocky Mountain
Oh yeah.
comic book, what was it? Oh shit, now that I'm saying it, I forget it. Rocky Mountain comic book noise. Rocky Mountain comic book
Yes.
noise.
Yep. So so Mike is a wealth of knowledge.
Indeed. Indeed.
Doug, I have 3 short boxes and I'm already out of room. Yeah. I feel you. I feel your pain. I'm trying to get down to 3 short boxes. So all right. So let's go ahead and switch over. So that was FOC. Those are books that are coming out, or are listed to come out in a couple weeks, 4 weeks or whatever, but you can check
Supposedly.
it.
Yeah.
Supposedly. Sometimes they don't, that's the
Yeah,
thing.
really. I
So,
mean, yeah.
yeah. But so new preview catalog came out. So we want to talk about some of our picks. Now, we've already discussed this. We're gonna change this in the future. It is really hard. We try and do 6 picks for each category, and it's really, really hard to do just 3 books from previews. So Mike, Rocky Mountain comic book noise is so old. It's so true, but it's so good. Everybody's got an origin story.
Mhm.
So these are gonna be our 3 picks apiece. Next time we do this, we'll probably forego the FOC portion and do 6 picks apiece for previews.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm a sucker for certain publishers and everything, and there were so many new books from just individual. I was like, I can't pick one. So that's what we're going to do next time. But that being said, let's go ahead and dive into what our picks are for this previews.
All right. My first pick is one of the coolest named companies I've seen in a while. This is from Cherry Bomb Comics, LLC. The Brooding Muse, issue number 1, called an OG Horror Comics Supreme on the cover. That's part of the ad there. It's going to be an anthology book, or well, I think it is going to be an anthology book, but
Mm.
basically the title story is what we get the blurb here. Ruthless enforcer, the brooding muse has vanished, shattering peace in a vicious world of killers, pushing them past the brink into all-out war. As a rogue group of killers hunt the muse, 3 victims band together to cut their puppet strings once and for all. Grit-filled Lovecraftian anthology series debut. So, name of the company, The Brooding Muse, is just a cool title, a cool name for somebody, and you're throwing out the word Lovecraft, which is one of my like top 5 get Ed to buy it words. So
Yep.
that's so all that together, now $5.95, even with a discount, it still probably be over $5. They're going to have to do a little bit to get me to continue to buy this.
Hmm.
Um, I'm hoping that it's oversized thickness, that it's
Yeah. Yeah.
48, 64 pages, something like that.
Hmm.
And I would way dig it if it was all or majority black and white, which I
That's what I
know,
was getting ready to say. Yeah.
oh
Hope it's
man,
black and white. Yeah.
that's a really hard sell nowadays. But there is a company called Warrant that
Hmm.
has brought those back recently and have been putting out, I believe they're up to 4 titles, 3 or 4 titles that they kind of alternate between every month. And so there is the market out there for those old, you know, black and white magazines a la Warren or a la um, Curtis for Marvel and some of the stuff like that. So there's a part of me that hopes it's similar to that. If not, that's cool. I'll judge it on whatever other merits, attract me to the book. But
Yeah.
I'm definitely willing to give this a try.
Cool. Yeah. You'll have to let me know how it is.
Okay.
It's probably not one that I'll pick up unless see it on the shelf. But at the same time, if it is that oversized book, like a 48-page thing or
Hmm.
whatever, I don't know, man. It could be some good stuff in there.
Could be. Yeah.
All right, so my first pick is Dark Ride number 1. This is over at Image Comics, written by Joshua Williamson, art and cover by Andre Bresson. So,
Andrea
welcome to
Preston.
the scariest place on earth. Devil Land has been the world's premier horror themed amusement park for over 50 years, home to the scariest ride ever created, The Devil's Due. Isn't that copywritten by somebody, publisher? And so,
Maybe so. I don't know.
and when when lifelong fan Owen Seasons begins his first day on the job, he will discover the true horrors happening behind the scenes, the truth about the park's reclusive creator Arthur Dante, and the job of his dreams might be a living nightmare. So this is a Skybound book, and I talked about it when I talked about Skybound X25. There was Skybound did I forgot what they call it, but it's like their own sort of like mini press day or whatever. And they did that maybe a week ago. So I listened to the interview that they did with the creative team with Joshua Williamson and Brisson, and so Williamson has a way back deep love of amusement parks that go back to his childhood, and he's always wanting to tell some kind of amusement park horror story kind of thing, and so that's where this comes from. Now, read a small 8-page, 10-page, sort of teaser book or story in Skybound X25. Really enjoyed it. It was great. Art was great. So I'm definitely wanting to check this out and at least see if it's, see if it's any good. I'll probably give it at least a couple issues. I was a big fan. Both of these guys worked on Birthright together, and I was a big fan of Birthright. And so I'm just sort of moving on to the next project. Let's see how they do with this.
Right.
Um, I like amusement parks and all, but I don't know how well I'm going to enjoy a story that's sort of in an amusement park. But
Well,
if you do the characters right, we'll see.
right off the bat, I have to say, Devil's Due is not a bad name for a ride, but with the owner's name being Dante, didn't they miss out by another name for a
Oh, for
ride?
sure. Yeah.
So I'm like, oh,
So
come on, you
close.
didn't
So
use that?
close.
Come on. So
So Doug, Death Ride looks like it should be really good. It should be with that creative team, but we'll see. You
yeah,
know, we'll wait. I'm holding my breath. I'm not gonna hold my breath, but
no,
yeah,
yeah, don't hold your breath.
All right. So what you got next?
All right, next up is Postmasters #1 from Source Point Press. Once again, just looking at this cover, dude has swords. Well, okay,
Well, we know what
you
Ed
got me
wants.
leaning already. I'm like, okay, let's see. Don't run me off, but tell me what's going on here. So, this is a post-apocalyptic world, and believe it or not, I think from the description, this dude on the cover is a mail delivery person. That's how hard the world is now. So,
You will
we
get your mail even if to slice through everybody to get to you.
we know that well, once upon a time they rode across the country on horses to
Yep.
deliver the mail, and of course the rain or sleet or but dude has swords, and he's got a pistol on his chest, and he's got a mask over his mouth, presumably some sort of breathing apparatus. So life has gotten tough in the mail delivery service, man. So, but that to me, that is just kind of an interesting concept. As a child, I was always enamored by the Pony Express
Mhm.
concept and real story. And so something like that in a post-apocalyptic world where not necessarily male, but you have somebody more along the lines of, I don't know, the transporter, which is just a cooler concept.
Yeah.
Basically the same thing, but cooler concept. Um, which reminds me, one of the new dudes, Chris at AEW, Castiglione,
Oh
he looks
yeah,
exactly like Jason Statham to Terry and
he
I.
does.
And whenever we see him, we're like,
Ah,
"Oh, look!" Yeah.
didn't even think
So,
about that. Yeah, you're right.
okay, sorry, that's an aside, guys. Jason Statham is my favorite action hero. Um, so delivering a parcel, let's say, and having to fight to do so is just an interesting concept to me. But again, post-apocalyptic world and all these attributes you see on the cover here, if that translates to the character and the story, I'll be able to stay pretty interested in that.
Yeah, that is a. I do dig that cover.
Plus, two, the writer, one of the writers, Christina Blanche. Um, there's some interesting world behind her.
Oh, okay.
I read a book that she wrote a while back. She did what is it called? Massive online
Oh, the MORMM
MOO
massive
something.
multiplayer online
No. The
game.
the education thing that they do
Oh, no, no,
nowadays.
no.
Isn't that
Yeah.
MOOK, a MOOC or something like that?
Yeah, I'm not
She
sure on that
led
one.
one because at one point, I don't know if she still is, but at one point she was a college instructor.
Oh, okay.
Um, she owns a comic book shop. Hey Kids, maybe? She owns
Oh,
one
is
of the
that
Hey
it?
Kids,
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
and I believe she was previously married to Mark Waid. So she has a
Wow,
very storied comic book, uh, credentialing to her.
for
And
sure.
the couple of things that I know that she has written, or has been involved in writing that I've read, I've also liked of hers. So her name kind of helped bring attention to this book when I saw the two of them there.
Yeah, nice. All right. So I talked about this earlier. Well, at least this creative team. My next pick is Approach, number 1 of 5. It's a miniseries over at Boom. It is written by Jeremy Hahn and Jason A. Hurley, art by Jesus Hervas, and some of the covers by Jeremy Hahn. It's a Boom book, so it's going to have variants. Yay. So
And it's also
this
going to
is
sell out the first printing.
I hope so.
Sorry.
Jeremy deserves it. He and Jason. No, I'm just kidding.
Only if they have
I'm
something in their contract that they say they continue to get money with subsequent printings.
I am a fanboy, no doubt. So this Turbulently horror miniseries, and they do good horror stuff. Like I said before, one of the first books I ever picked up, the two of them were on, was Leading Man. That is not a horror book. That is a spy action book. But they have done a lot of horror stuff since. They've done The Beauty over at Image. They did Red Mother here at Boom. Jeremy's got a he had a Kickstarter that's I just got an email. They're in the printing phases of it now. So he's on.
Is it late too?
No, it's not late. He was just explaining the process.
Did you see my tweet today?
No, I didn't.
Oh man.
Did you have a late Kickstarter?
Well, I just tweeted. Has anybody else had a belly full of every update that you get on Kickstarter and Indiegogo is some excuse as to why the creators are not delivering what they said they would, despite promising and having your money?
Oh yeah, I've gotten that all the time.
That seems to be just about every update I get is well, God, I'm like, okay, close, next.
Yeah, I don't think that's it.
I don't even need to hear it. It doesn't change.
Hyper. I was just looking at the approach on pre-order. Sounds promising.
Well,
For sure. I mean,
if
and I'm picking up because I'm a fanboy. Um,
if
but
Chris is doing his job, then he should have convinced you to at least try this first issue.
let's see. Storm is coming, bringing in more than bad weather. When airport employee Mac and Abigail find themselves snowed in after a blizzard, they witness a terrible plane crash. After pulling a survivor from the wreckage, they realize the terrifying truth: the plane has been missing for 27 years. Dun dun dun. The nightmare has only begun, though, as the people trapped in the airport soon find themselves confronted by what this plane actually brought back. For those who fear flying, it's not the sky that deserves dread, but what lies beyond it. So I'm getting a Langoliers kind of vibe off of that. If you've ever read that short story by Stephen King,
or
so
the TV show where the big jetliner landed, and they found out that the people on the jetliner found out that they had been missing for X number of years when they disembarked. That was just here the past handful of years ago that show was on.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah, I didn't watch that, but I know what you're talking about for sure. Yeah. Let's see. Makes you glad just to get a book. Mike just launch JSR Kickstarter. He always
well, if they're launching now, they probably will be safe by the time that all of the mechanical aspects come. But if they launched in the last 18 to 24 months, forget it, man.
Oh, yeah.
It'll be another year and a half before they can get on a schedule to finish things up. It's
So apparently reading Jeremy's tweets and stuff like that, this is going to be a very claustrophobic series. So if you're one of those people that hates tight spots and spaces and whatnot, this might freak you out a little bit. So we'll see. I mean, the cover definitely has a little some kind of creature in the background in the snow.
Chasing the plane, but it's obscured by the snowstorm. That's cool.
Yeah,
it's like,
I dig
is
that.
there something back there? What is that? Yeah.
But so definitely one I'm going to be paying attention to.
All right, now mine is a kitschy pick because I think
let's talk about this.
This is an excellent idea. One company besides Zenescope comes to mind that this would be a beautiful thing for them to do. My last pick is from Zenescope. Let's see, what do they call it? The Zenescope Collector's Cover Checklist 2021 edition. Now, my reading
such a great idea
is that this is a mini catalog that they are using to catalog all the variant covers they
Mhm.
dropped in 2021.
Which is
That
a
way,
lot.
you have a convenient way of knowing what I have and what I need. This is a beautiful idea. One page, if that's what you wanted to do, one page per cover, you would get some beautiful
Oh,
artwork,
yeah.
but you would get the kind of checklist that we all dream of being able to get a hold of
Mhm.
for the different things that we want to collect.
Yep.
So this it Dynamite needs
Oh,
to jump on this
jeez.
boat, man.
Oh, God.
The,
Tell me about it.
Oh, but yeah, I saw this and I'm like, that is an excellent idea. I have never seen something like this before. I don't know if I've missed it or, somebody listening in, maybe they're more familiar with Xenoscope than I am. This is the first time I've ever seen them do that. Well, yeah, of course. I mean, but that we men don't buy comic books for
That's
that. So
right.
I'm not sure what you're alluding to, Hyper. We read it for the story.
For the articles.
Yeah,
For the
absolutely. I mean, that's
story.
that's why we pick it up.
I do think this is a great idea, and it is definitely something that, I know I've talked to folks on Twitter about, and, like, "Oh, wouldn't it be so cool?" Because, there was a time I bought way more variant covers than you should, than a doctor would recommend, and it was kinda like, "Hey, you're just buying it for the cover," and I'm like, "Yeah, I know, but I like the cover." And they were like, "It'd be great if we had just a book every month that came out." It was Dynamite that was the publisher, but just a book that came out that showed all of the covers.
Yes.
It didn't even have to
Oh,
be
man.
that month's cover. You could do last month's cover, 6 month,
Right.
whatever. I don't care.
Yeah.
But yeah, so
But just a checklist to
I
to,
I
you know
slightly laughed at this when I saw this on the list, but then I read it and I'm like, oh, that's not a bad idea.
eh,
This is a really good
absolutely.
idea.
And just think if you took this concept, I wonder if a company that's already making books like, Tomorrow's maybe,
Mhm.
or, the whatever the company is that puts out the big, thick, uh, price guide every year,
Overstreet?
Overstreet,
Yeah.
if they could produce a book every year of everybody's variant covers.
Oh dear God.
Just a checklist. They don't include pictures because
Right.
then I'm sure there are all other issues, but just a checklist. Something to make those people that are collectors make it easier for them to
Mhm.
know at the very least what's out there. I don't know
Yeah.
how many times um, that I don't keep up with it, but 6 or 8 months later, I see somebody talking about a variant cover for a book that is 6 or 8 months old, and I'm like,
Yeah.
wow, I never even saw that. I
Oh, yeah.
didn't, you know, typically a store cover, of course, but it's like,
Oh, for sure, yeah.
if you aren't in a particular circle for a particular book, how
Mhm.
do you get that information
Yeah.
to even know that it's available? It's just there are so many avenues now that are not are not filtered through anything for you to be able to pick out, once you're interested in. Um, Previews is an excellent book, but even it doesn't do everything.
Right, because a lot of that stuff, I mean, we know for, pick on Boom, we know for a fact that they're gonna list cover A, B, C, maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
They may not have the 1 in 10 ready or the 1 in 25. They
Right.
definitely don't have the FOC ready, those kind of things. And so, yeah, they're not going to be in previews. But so you can look at it and go, oh, well, there's only going to be 3 covers or 2 covers. And then when the book comes out, oh, God, there's 10
Yeah,
covers.
you
Where did
you
all these other
you
ones come from?
right.
So,
You're on Twitter or you're on Facebook and people are dropping all the covers and I'm like, how how
yep,
did you even find out about those?
yep.
So yeah, something like this I think is
It's
just
a,
an excellent collecting tool.
it's a good idea. All right, so my last pick, I struggle with this one because there's a lot of good books that were in this previous. Is a Marvel book. It's Miracle Man Silver Age #1. It's by Neil Gaiman and Mark Buckingham. This is Neil Gaiman and Buckingham's unfinished storyline for the Silver Age. This is what we've been waiting for, folks.
Yeah,
This
everybody,
is
yes,
this is it.
absolutely.
You can put every other comic down. This is what we sacrifice Angela for, so we can have
Yeah,
so we,
since this property came to Marvel, this is the storyline that people have been wanting.
yeah.
This is why Marvel getting a hold of it was exciting.
Yep. So, and I say some of that tongue in cheek, but I do say some of it in seriousness. Is that there's a group of fans, readers, collectors that have been around since the '80s when this series stopped, and has been waiting ever since to see how this story will end. Will it end, or will it just get passed on to the next creative team? Who knows? Now that Marvel owns it, definitely who knows. I'm not. That is a whole different podcast.
Yeah.
That's a long conversation.
Another conversation.
So, but yeah, so finally, this book, and it's in previews. The first issue. It is going to be. It's. I mean, it just says. It's including material originally presented in Miracle Man number 23, which came out in 1985, plus bonus content. It's the unfinished. So we're gonna get, I guess, issue 23, and we're gonna then get subsequent. Now the problem is that this is gonna be Silver Age number 1. Are we gonna get Legacy number like Marvel does with all their current stuff? I would hope so.
Wow.
Or a variant cover of some kind that shows those numbers of some kind, for those diehard collectors who really would like to see Miracle Man 23 on their on their cover, and not Silver Age number 1. For the new reader, Silver Age number 1 is perfectly fine. They don't care. They just want to read the story. They're curious. They've heard the stories. They've heard how good Marvel Man or Miracle Man was or is, and they want to see what it's all about, see the new stuff. And so, here you go. So here's your chance. It's going to be on my pull list. I have not read the previous stuff that's out there, God, in probably 10, 15 years. So I'm sure Marvel's got a trade paperback out there that collects it all. I'm probably going to end up picking that up and rereading it before this comes out. It's gonna be weird about how it's just gonna be weird. But I'll definitely talk about the series or this issue when it comes out, because I definitely want to at least bring it up. And then I think I need to find are you, and I don't want to pass you over, are you any kind of fan of this, knowledgeable?
I am familiar with the legacy. I am familiar with the creators, but I honestly have never read one Marvel Man, Miracle Man story.
Cool. All right. Well, I mean, and that's good. Because what I was going to say, I didn't want to overstep you, but it's like might want to have somebody walk us through briefly the history of Miracle Man, not the buying and the selling and who owns what and this and that and the creative.
Now that I can talk about. But.
Yeah, I can too. I mean, I can just look it up. But as far as like experiencing it from the early days, and were you reading it back in the 80s? Yeah,
I know it was huge when it was.
Yep.
Looking at the time frame, you're talking about the early to mid 80s.
Mm-hmm.
It started over in Britain where it was a hit.
Yep.
And then we got it over here where it was a hit.
Yep.
And then, so I'm familiar with a lot of things that were hits during that time period. But this one in particular, no, I've never read this. No particular reason, but I've never read this.
Yep. So all right, cool. Well, it'll be fun. Be fun to check out together then. So, all right. Well, that's it. As far as 6 quick picks from the August previews catalog. There are many more that we could have selected. So if you're into previews and whatnot of making sure you're getting your books, I mean, previews, as much as you want to hate on Diamond or whatever, at least go through a previews catalog, whether it be on their website, which is what we're pulling up here on the show. Go through their website or buy the catalog and go through it. if something crosses your, interest, definitely reach out to your comic shop, tell them, put on your pull list. I had a opportunity last night after work to go by a comic shop, or one of my local comic shops, Capital Comics, and talk to a buddy of mine there who works there. And one of the biggest things that he is wanting to see more at his shop, but just in shops in general, because he talks to a lot of folks who work the different shops in the Raleigh, the whole Research Triangle Park area and everything, that more people would look at previews and put stuff on their pull list, because the last several weeks he was naming off books that are independent or small press or something to that effect that show up in a previews catalog that he sees that are much like the books that you pointed out tonight, that are books that folks just skip over, and when even skip over for FOC. And when he talks about it on his Instagram or something like that, like, hey, this book's going to come out, people on Wednesday will call up or come by and like, hey, that book you're talking about, they don't know how many to order because nobody had it on their pull list. And so it sells out the 4 or 5 copies that they get.
There are so many comic book fans that I know that don't handle a previews.
Yeah.
Now, there is that subset that bemoans spoilers.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right. In handling a previews, there is no way to avoid that. Absolutely. You got covers, you got blurbs, sometimes that give things away, sometimes they don't. Now, if you want to, be concerned about that, talk to your publisher. Somebody like Marvel giving crap away in the blurbs is unconscionable because it doesn't have to be that way.
Yeah.
But it year in and year out is one of my top comic book related publications, previews. I absolutely adore getting it because I know coming up, the next 2 or 3 or 4 nights, I'll honestly lay in bed looking at the previews to figure out what I want. And, I'll go through it 2 or 3 times. I'll mark 2 or 3 times, knowing by the time I get ready to order, 50, 75% of those will fall off. I
sure.
won't be as motivated to get them. It was the, oh, wow, but that's just it. It's the, oh, that's cool. Oh, that sounds awesome. And why more people don't want to do that. I didn't even know. That's on you.
Yeah.
It's totally on you. The only reason that you can't know nowadays is because you don't care enough to know.
Yeah.
That's just plain and simple. Particularly with things like previews. Now there, other avenues. You've got your Kickstarters and your Indiegogos.
Oh, sure.
Those are a little tougher to keep up with. But hell, most of the Kickstarters and Indiegogos eventually end up in previews anyways, because that's
true,
where people want them to be. So just previews. Just get previews. I have it shipped express to me so that I get it as absolutely soon as I can, usually within 7 days of when the shop gets it. And I don't have a shop, so I order by mail. So I mean,
and like I said, even if you don't or can't get a copy of the catalog itself, go to Previews World. I mean, it's right here. It says catalog. It is on the front page. I mean, it's hard to miss. And they do a good job. I mean, there's tons of other, and I'm not going to go through this website for you. You're grown-ups. You can figure it out yourself. But you come in here, you click on previews, it pulls up a nice little, and again, this is for everybody who's watching this on YouTube. It pulls up a nice,
if you're listening to the podcast,
if you're listening to the podcast,
follow along with our verbal braille.
This is literally the worst.
This is exactly what video is for, and what podcasting is not.
I apologize, but you can come to the, it says August previews. If you want to look back at previous catalogs, you can go through all of the publishers. I mean, everybody who's in previews that month. You can look for comics and trade. You can filter. They do a decent job. If you just want to see what the new series are, click on. That's my favorite thing.
Oh, that is my favorite. Yeah,
you click on that, and this is all the #1 issues. Everything you want to see who's doing something new. Click on that and just scroll to your heart's content. No,
Hyper, wasn't
there's
it
the
you talking
DC
about
issue that has a problem, but it's one that's
boobies
nice.
earlier also? Was that you, Hyper? I think
I
I'm
th-
seeing a theme here.
oh
What's
no,
going on with that there?
what do you
Okay.
say? I thought the internet was just for like,
Yeah,
oh
okay.
yeah, yeah,
Um, and to take it a step further, even if you don't use internet ordering or mail order services, go to their websites, DCB service,
yep,
Westfield Comics,
hmm,
and you will find where they have uploaded the latest catalog as well. And you can look through the way they have it set up if you
yep,
don't like previews or don't want to use previews. So most mail order, internet order, online companies have a place that you can go and look at the latest catalog, which is going to be previews altogether. So you can look at everything that is new available for order as of whenever you go to the website.
right,
So just, again, people who say that they didn't know, it truly just means that they didn't care enough to look. That's all. And
yep.
that's unfortunate.
I
Well,
mean,
no, I'm Hyper. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with liking boobies at all. I mean, you know, without going into another show, but yeah.
here's another thing on our new releases. If you're always wondering, hey, did that book come out, or when's that book come out? It didn't come out the week it's supposed to. New releases, product updates, go to shipping updates.
There you
Boom!
go.
It tells you. You go pick a book or pick a date. It tells you, oh no, the old date was this. We actually came out on the,
Yeah.
you
Oh
know,
no, it's going to come out
yeah.
on this one. Yeah.
So, I mean, it's and having used this website, and the catalog especially, I love the catalog. I was thinking today, I literally was thinking an hour before the show, I was driving back to the house and something crossed my mind. I'm like, you know what? I really wish I'd kept all my previews. Just kept them all, from
Maybe
I don't
I
know what
don't
I would
know.
do with
That's
them,
yeah. That's to me. That's a bit much. That's
but
like
I'm a
saving.
collector, so
That's like saving all your Sears and Roebuck catalogs when you were a kid, or J.C.
yes,
Penney, or Monkey Wards, or it's like
yes.
I don't. I got it. The line. It's
Uh,
got to be drawn somewhere.
nope,
And for me, catalogs are kind of
nope.
be- because when I get that new one in the mail, the very first thing I do is go to my bedroom, pick up the old one, lay down the new one, pitch the old one. I don't have room to keep all those. They're 400 and 500 pages a piece. No,
I know. I would
no,
have to
man.
throw them out. Good kindling.
Yeah, I
That's
bet. Yeah, newsprint.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's what it's there for. So,
Oh,
all
if
right,
only we got more newsprint.
let's jump into some reviews of
I
some
miss the
books we've
days of
been
newsprint. Okay.
reading. Let
Said that many of my
me.
previous advanced comics and comics by guide every second. Now CBG, I would have kept potentially for articles. I
Oh
think,
yeah, 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 for sure. Yeah,
right? Because CBG was a whole thing, right? I mean, it wasn't just new comics or anything like that. It was interviews and news
yeah,
pieces and stuff like that. That's the kind of stuff that now, and I think it's probably because of my age, to be honest, that I'm getting more into are those old um, comic related magazines and fanzines and stuff like that, particularly pre-internet. That was the way that you found out, or that was the way that you learned about your favorite creators and stuff like
yep,
that. I'm digging, and at some point, I'm sure that I'll break something like that out as a review, but I just haven't gotten that bold yet. So,
yeah. No, I get you there.
all right,
All
first
right.
up, I'm
Um,
looking at Artists Elite presents. Pow!
and
This is
I
it.
am going to share this somehow if I can share slight. Oh, it's hard to share a thing that I haven't opened up yet.
Yes, yes. This is yeah. I could see that.
Yeah.
But we have this is going to be an ongoing. There are 3 stories in this one. There we go. And actually, that's my desk there
Yeah,
around it.
these are live pictures.
That's it. That's the pic that I took and sent to Chris, so he would have it. So yeah, um, three stories, and I've seen the next 2 issues solicited, and they each have 3 stories also. So it's going to be an ongoing anthology. The second issue doesn't have any of these stories in it, but the third issue has all 3 of these stories in it. The next segment. So I assume that is going to be how they continue this. Now, of particular interest, For the first story, the writer-illustrator is Brett Booth. Come on, all you
Ooh.
90s fans. The second story, the writer-artist is Tyler Kirkham. Come on, all you 2000 fans. And the third story, the concepts, story, and script and art are by Ali Garza. Come on, all you mid 2000 fans, maybe?
He's
I
late
think.
90s. Yeah. I mean,
Late okay. Yeah, so, I mean, look, those names, it's like, dude, come on, again, enough to get me interested to buy the first issue, which this is on my list, except that it's not in this previews. There's not an issue of this in this previews, and I don't.
hmm.
I think that is possibly correct, but I'm going to have to check around to make sure that that's right. Multiple variant covers, if that's what you're into. Ali Garza had 3, Tyler Kirkham had 1, and Brett Booth had 1. And then this one, I believe, is by Brett Booth. I believe it's by. Does it look like Brett Booth, Chris?
Actually, it
Maybe
looks like it's all 3 of them.
Oh, each character. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and each character is one of the stories. The dude in the red is the last Serpent Prince. The big dude here in the back is Final Boss, and then the little female here with the mask is the Sand Wenches story, which just kind of makes me chuckle. Calling somebody a wench, it's like, that's so 1800s. But very frenetic, kinetic art. First of all, Chris, look at that. Does that not look like Brett Booth? I mean, that is. This way. Look at that.
That is classic.
I mean, is that not that is Brett Booth?
Oh, I follow him on Twitter, so it's been real fun as he's been putting pages together and stuff like that to see some of that stuff. But yeah,
his
I
female. Look at his female there.
I mean, his stuff is just great.
It is.
I mean, still today. I mean,
interesting story. Honestly, a little tough for me to get a handle on. I'm not 100%. This was only like maybe about 8 pages, or let's see. No, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 pages. 10 pages, and the main character only appeared in about half the pages, and then we switch more to a setting. There, he's setting the setting. And we have a couple other characters come out. One who is affiliated with the Serpent, and one who is out to get him because she believes that he is an accomplice of the devil. Much like she very much strikes me like a Magdalena character, the Top Cow Magdalena.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Mm-hmm. She strikes me, one of the characters here. Her name was escaping me, and I don't see here quickly. And then another female is a guard for the complex that gives the Serpent now his orders, or that he works for. So we start out initially with him way back somewhere, and then something happened to him that he was kind of in a suspended animation healing. We don't really know who is responsible or why. And then we cut to a now, and then the rest of the story is now with both he and the organization that he works for. So a little quicker paced, again, 10 pages. So I guess they're trying to get to a certain story mass in 10 pages, and it felt I guess rushed. I wish they would have had, if not more room, then they would have covered less mileage, and then picked up more with the next installment, and then increase the number of installments by 1 or 2 so that they could stretch the mileage per installment. But that's okay. It made my eyes happy nonetheless, even though my brain was trying to figure out what was going on. So, I figure if one of the two is okay, then we're in good shape.
Right. Yeah.
The second story, the character, the second story is particularly in a way disappointing, because it has to do with this character, Final Boss, which is the big dude on the cover. The first part of his story is in a graphic novel that was released 2 or 3 years ago. So this picks up even though you probably don't have to have read that story. But of course, being the type of collector readers that we are, we want to. Um, but it picks up at some point after that, and I think we kind of find a situation in this story maybe that first graphic novel would have explained, and so this picks up after it. And this one's even shorter. This is 6 pages. 2, 4, yeah, 6 pages on that installment. So between not necessarily being caught up and being, only 6 pages, it definitely had a what's going on here kind of feel to it. But
Right.
again, my brain was saying that, but my eyes were like, oh man, oh damn.
But look at this
Yeah,
art.
really, that was so. There's an ad here for the next issue with a couple covers. We find out that Ben Templesmith and Freddie Williams II is going to be involved in the second issue.
Yep.
These names, guys, these names. I mean, they are the top of their art right now.
Mhm.
So this is like mega stars right now. And then the Sandwiches is a group of, looks like 4 women, each of them falling into a particular motif. We have one that's the tank character. If you role play, I'm sorry, the big strong guy like Ben Grimm, okay, for the Fantastic Four. And then you have 3 others. One looks like a weapons, and one is the jovial, jokey kind of girl who's into pickles for some reason. That seems to be what she's eating one, and she's got a face mask that has a pickle in place of a smile. It's got a green, probably a dill pickle. And then, or maybe it's alluding hyper. Maybe it's alluding to something else there. I don't know, dog. And then she jumps onto a sky sled that takes the form, before she jumps on it, of a giant pickle. And then when she lands on it, it opens up into this more aerodynamic kind of flying sky sled thing. What is
Why
that
not?
emoji? Is he thinking there? Okay. And
Yes.
they face the 4 girls are trying to break into this place, and they're running amok. So the place that they're trying to break into releases their secret weapon called Man Cat, and he says, "Mew." So
Okay. All right.
yeah, it's much lighter than the previous 2 stories, but again, like the art. Look here, look at
It's
the
it's so
usage of
pretty.
primary colors there.
It's
Look
so
at that.
pretty.
And see, there's a pickle. Let's see, she's here. Here she's munching down on the pickle before she goes on a mission. She's even green like a pickle. So, yeah, just
Sorry.
no, that's okay.
It's just
Just
funny.
the creators involved in this. I mean, yeah, it's
I
just it's
wonder
a
if at some
smorgasbord.
point they're gonna break out, and I know this is an anthology book right now, and but at some point are we gonna have are these books gonna break
Break
out
out.
to be solo titles?
Could be, but keep in mind that I think everybody involved really is doing multiple things. So
Right.
maybe something like this is all the time they have to do right now,
Maybe,
working
yeah.
on their own products.
Yeah.
They want to do that, but this is all they can really manage, uh, time and effort right now. So
Oh, and that's fine. Yeah. I mean, if
yeah,
that's
yeah.
the
But I
case.
see what you're saying. Yeah, it's like, well, again, with those names involved, it's like, you don't want your own book. Well, but I'm still doing all my regular gigs, and
Oh,
this
yeah.
is the most I could do.
Hey, if it comes out on a regular basis, even if it's like every other month,
Right.
I think that's good to see.
I
So,
concur.
all right. So my first book is, let's see if I can pull up the cover here. I apparently cannot because I'm a slacker. That
Slacker.
is,
Nope.
yeah,
Nope. Oh,
there we go.
spoilers. Ah,
Sorry.
dang.
I gotta learn how to do this better. What the really sucky thing is I go, well, this is not sucky. It's a very learning. I learn by watching other people. So I've been watching other podcasters or YouTubers or whatever you want to call it, that do a very similar show to what we do, and sort of seeing how they do things, especially the folks who've been doing it for the last couple of years. And I've seen a couple shows that do their display, this and that and everything. But it's been fun to watch a lot of these shows. One guy is like, one show that I've been just recently watching is, I'll probably get it wrong off the top of my head, but it's like two fat guys in a pull list or something like that.
Yeah, okay, that sounds familiar,
That is a very laid back, low key show, very similar to our own, that I really dig. And they've got a great chat and stuff like that. So it's one of those things. I sat there and watched them for a while and everything. I was like, oh yeah. And it's not that I feel like, oh, we need to be emulating what so and so is doing. It's not that, but it is kind of neat to watch other people who have because we've been doing this for whatever 4, 5 months, 6 months or whatever, or it seems like it at least.
Weeks, dog.
It's only been weeks that we've been doing this.
Yeah, 38, 39, 40, 41.
Oh
42,
yeah,
43, 6 weeks with the show and the covers and all that kind of stuff.
Oh yeah. But I was just talking about on YouTube in general.
Oh yeah, well, longer than that.
But yeah, trying to add all this stuff in. It's been fun to kind of check out other people and see what they're doing. So we're pretty much in line with everybody else, which makes me feel good. So all right, so Golden Rage. I talked about this with the FOC. They even talked about it last week about new releases coming out this week. So I figured I may as well do the trifecta and actually review the book. So this is the first issue of a series coming out through Image. Written by Chrissy Williams, art by Lauren Knight, colors by Sophie Dodgson. It is, the concept of it is in a world where elderly,
in a world,
I have to be very careful in how I say this, but this is how the book is. In a world where women sort of outlive their usefulness, they're sent to an island to sort of battle royale it.
Yes. Okay.
And so it is, I think the solicitation said it's Golden Girls meets Battle Royale.
Battle Royale or Deadly Classroom.
Yeah, something to that. Yeah, something
Golden
to that
Girls. I mean,
so it's so first off, the book itself, as far as art goes and stuff like that, it's not as grim and gritty as far as the art style goes. Now, what happens on the island? Yes, sure. It's a lot of fighting. There's a lot of blood. There's a lot of killing and stuff like that. So there is that. The events on the island are very violent, but the art style is a pretty clean style. It's not super gritty or anything like that. I really dug it. The coloring is great as far as it sort of meets that that sort of doom and gloom kind of tone that you would expect from it. So the color palette is very muted, but it does a good usage of bright coloring where lights are necessary. There's no electricity on this island, so it's a very living on the land and by the land kind of thing. So if you need, I think supplies are dropped there every so often or something to that effect. Maybe when new women are dropped off there, I forget if it actually clarifies that or not. But I do know that there's a scene where one of the women has got like a can of gasoline and she's getting ready to light somebody on fire, with it. So there is those kind of supplies.
Wow, okay.
So yeah, it's pretty violent. So this issue is explaining sort of what the island is and for a newcomer. So we get, I forget what, I'm not going to go through names and stuff. There's a lot of characters in this. But we get a younger woman as compared to everybody else on the island. She is dropped off on the island. I guess she outlived her usefulness, which is a weird thing to say, but so I'm gonna try and sort of tongue in cheek that one. But she's on the island and she doesn't know what to expect because no one apparently knows what to expect when you get here. And so it is what you would kind of think a very Lord of the Flies kind of thing, where tribes are formed, and so when new people come on the island, it's, is this person gonna fit in any of these tribes, or are they just meat? Or are they just, here just for the kill?
Mhm.
And so she sort of finds her way into upsetting one of the women there, who is sort of the big bad, and she is then come with, someone showed up, come with me if you want to live, kind of Terminator-esque, and grabs her, and they run off or whatever. And then she's sort of introduced to this woman's tribe, which is a small group of women. um but and so at the end of the issue, there's a big battle that's getting ready to happen, because these other women are looking for the new blood, and everything like that. So uh but it's a good sort of setup issue that sort of explains, not every detail, but does explain sort of the concepts of what's going on in this world, and this and that and everything. And then sort of the emotions of these women, especially the latest one that's come to the island, is sort of this sense of fear and hopelessness of and desperation of, what do I do? Where am I? How do I handle this? How do I survive? And having to make those quick, rash decisions in order to survive. I think it really expresses all of those things well, in this first issue. There's a lot to do in this first issue, and I feel like that the creative team as a whole has put together a really, really good package. So much, to where, get to the end of the issue, and it's obviously cliffhanger to the next issue. I am chomping at the bits to see what happens in the next issue. So I am definitely adding this one to my pull list. I definitely want to check out the next few issues, and then kind of really kind of put together an opinion of, is this one of those books that I'm gonna be in it, for the foreseeable future, or not. But right now, they've definitely got me for the second issue, and so I'm kind of looking forward to it.
Is the newbie our POV character, or is the narrator a neutral narrator?
There is no. Well, she's our POV for
Okay.
this issue. I don't know if that's going to be for the rest of the series, or maybe just
Okay.
for as long. It definitely is her perspective, but we do. It's not solely from her perspective.
Right.
We do.
Okay.
It is sort of a third person ish kind of thing.
My other question is, how do you manage to squeeze this into your head that already has Maul in it? How do you
Oh, and I'm glad you brought that up.
how do you put
It
those two
is
together?
very it is very different. I
It's
mean, for sure. Now, Maul is a very horror-esque, story for sure. Very, feminist, book, and I do feel like this is in some regards, but at the same time, there it doesn't have the horror aspect to it. It
Okay.
definitely has the suspense and action kind of, thing, not really thriller, but definitely the suspense, like, oh my gosh, are these people obviously anybody can die. So you're like,
Right.
who's
Yeah,
who's
that's
who's next? Who's
right.
on the chopping block? So I don't know if our POV character is gonna survive next issue. And if she does, great. If she doesn't, I'm not gonna be shocked by it. I mean, it will be like, oh, well, definitely anybody's up for grabs.
Right, yeah.
Yeah. So it will be that. But at the same time, I don't have any real expectations of what's going to happen, because I really haven't read enough of it yet. So,
I remember that we were Maul left a mark, and it
right.
was
Right.
very highly female, feminine,
Yeah.
slanted POV, and
Yeah.
everything like that. And by what you were saying, I'm like, oh no, 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 this is like on the other end of the
Yeah. It is.
spectrum
It
from
is.
that.
And I think both of them would complement each other well. But
True,
yeah, they're definitely two
and
different sides.
And the creators from all evidently did a good job, because see, here in the middle of nowhere, I brought it up
We're still
because it's
talking about
still,
it. Yeah.
that scar still hasn't completely healed yet.
For sure.
So, alrighty. Next up for me, Terry Funk from Squared Circle Comics.
I'm so excited for this.
It's written by John Crowther. Art is by Marco Quintana. Colored by Alavan Ortiz and lettered by Amal Desai. Now, squared circle or inverse. Squared Circle does only wrestling people comics, biographic comics.
Is that a chromium cover?
Yes.
It looks very shiny on the camera.
Yeah.
Sorry, I just had to.
Uh,
Shiny things.
and
attract
I'll
me.
explain why this is the particular version I have. I think that I have seen Squared Circle in previews, but I don't remember exactly. I know I've seen Inverse Comics, who is also related to this. But what I have done is Squared Circle Comics. You can buy basically a year subscription on Patreon.
Okay.
They start off each publishing year by sending you a collector's box. Okay. And it will include one premium comic. And on the back of the box, or listed on the inside of it, is all of the books that they're going to publish for that year that you will get a copy of as part of that yearly subscription.
Nice.
Very. The Killer Bees has had a
Ooh.
book. Nikolai Koloff has
Mhm.
had a book. Um, uh, San Martino has had a book. These all
Nice.
came out last year. This is only the second year I've done it. And I should have grabbed the book to give some indication of the other titles. This one doesn't say. But this book read for Terry Funk like the A&E biography TV series has been doing for each of the personalities that they do. Are you familiar with that
Oh
show,
yeah.
Chris?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's very similar. It starts out, is now flatline for horror. And Arctic put out one of the Squared Circle comics in previews. Cosmic Times put some inverse in preview. Yeah.
Oh,
But
okay.
in particular, I don't know that I've really seen these wrestling comics come through. And I don't know if it's because I'm getting them, so I just pass by them anyways, or if they truly aren't there.
Mhm.
So yeah, that's in their horror stuff. Yeah. But look at this likeness, Chris. Tell me, is that not Terry Funk?
Oh, that's Terry
I
Funk
mean,
for sure.
yeah, come on. This is such a young
That's a
Terry Funk that
oh
it's
yeah.
like, well, and the reason why this is a chromium cover is because this is part of my Patreon subscription. So
Cool.
this isn't necessarily the mass market version.
Yeah.
When it comes out, it'll be flat colored and everything.
Mhm.
Something else I noticed too, the very final page of the book is on the inside
Oh wow.
of the
Yeah.
back cover.
Well, if you don't have
So
ads, that's a
uh,
good spot
yeah,
to put it.
so they used all of it.
Yeah.
The creative information is on the inside front, and the inside back is the last panel, last page of the comic. And then this is,
Nice.
I think this is this what you said is? This is, they just started, or this Kickstarter's about to end. Actually, I think Vicious Circus, or maybe it just started, one or the other.
Yeah.
But I've been getting the emails for this, even though this is the inverse, or
Right.
the inverse stuff that I'm interested in. So probably 8 to 10 books a year, not quite one a month.
Mhm.
But every one of the wrestling books will kickstart first. And then when the Kickstarter's finished, I get mine because I automatically have paid for it. And then I think at some point down the road, it will come out in mass market. I guess that would have to be previews, because I know I've
Yeah.
seen
Yeah.
mass market ads for some of the other books that I got last year. But that's how I get these. So if you're a wrestling fan, and this is two current interests coming together for me, comic books and wrestling,
Mhm.
um, I'm a little unknowledgeable about Terry Funk. He was a little bit before my time. And then the time that he had like his second run, I kind of wasn't following wrestling. So
Oh,
I
okay.
know of
Yeah.
him. and some of the other people. Oh, something really interesting. This will be interesting to you too, Chris. He went to. All right, guys, this makes wonderful TV time here.
He's
but
flipping through the book.
he went to college prior to one of his stints. Okay, one of his stints as a full-time wrestler.
Yep.
He went to West Texas State College. Okay, so did Bruiser Brody. Not necessarily at the same time as him, but
okay. I thought you were going to say at the same time. I was like, wow.
Roughly at the same era, though.
Yeah.
Bruiser Brody, Stan Hansen went to this college. Virgil Runnels went. Do you know?
Yeah.
Do you know Virgil Runnels?
I know who Virgil is. Yeah.
For those of you that are light wrestling fans, that's Dusty Rhodes.
Yeah.
Bobby Duncombe. Didn't recognize that one. Tito Santana, Tully Blanchard, and Ted DiBiase. Wow. All of those guys went to West Texas State, probably within the same 6, 8, 10-year period.
Yeah.
And it's like, dude, that's like Wrestle U. I mean, come on. For this era of wrestling, those are foundational names. And I'm like, nice. And of course, Terry Funk went there as well. So
yeah.
It's like, dude.
Bobby Duncombe was one of Stan Hansen's tag team partners.
Okay.
Yeah, I had to look that up. I recognize the name. I just can't remember what he did.
Go to school at the same time as Tully Blanchard because they played football together, and Tully was the quarterback, which I didn't know. So
that's a crazy school.
No doubt, man. That's like, dude, the wall of fame for their sports department. Forget their sports, just do wrestlers.
Oh, for sure. Well, I mean, you got to keep in mind all that stuff was regional back then, and so if a certain region did really, really well, which obviously this, the Texas region did.
Amarillo, Texas, I think was the city that he talked about. So yeah, they had their own wrestling, which was run by the Funks, and they sold it, and then they bought it back, and then so yeah, that's fascinating. Same thing with that biography stuff. Not so much all of the personalities that I watch because I'm not necessarily interested in all of them, but just the connectors between all of this stuff and the people they knew and wrestle or learn from because they were on their way out and everything. And it just it allows you to put together this genealogy of big time names, and it's oh cool.
Oh, I love that kind of stuff.
Man. Yeah, it's been fascinating. And sorry about that. Most of these books are like that too. They've all been biographical, not just like where they are now or a certain part of their career, like the WWE books for Boom, but more a biography of how I got in it, some high points too, and then it'll just cut off. Like this one cuts off in about 77, 78, which is nowhere near the end of Terry Funk. I don't know if there will be another issue or that's the story they wanted to tell or what it was. But yeah, Squared Circle Comics. For those of you that like your wrestling and your comic books to combine there.
Cool. Yeah, I got made fun of today by my son because I told him I listened to Logan Paul's podcast because Triple H was on it.
Oh, okay.
And so Logan Paul's now a wrestler at WWE and all this other stuff, but beside the point.
Why is that making fun worthy? What's wrong with Triple H?
Well, no, it was because it was Logan Paul.
I
was listening to. So, but anyway, but it's still those kind of things. I listen to all of that stuff. I listen to Ryan Satin's podcast because it's it's a behind the scenes. It's not kayfabe or anything like that. So it's very nuts and bolts and learning all this stuff. And so it's that kind of comic or something like that. That's perfect. I need to be checking that out.
It's to me now. It's much more interesting that kayfabe is as loose as it is.
Yeah.
You can be all about the absolute if you want, or there are these people that are telling you the way it is, the truth. Even when contemporary wrestlers are interviewed, a lot of times, except for MJF, they eschew kayfabe, and if they're asked something, they speak about it honestly. Like a person. Yeah, I don't think MJF ever breaks character.
No, I don't think so. I
So,
really don't.
no,
And
no, I
that's
don't.
why he's been off TV for so long, because he needed a break. He
Probably.
needed to
It
like
hurt,
be himself
yeah, hurting
for a
his
little bit.
brain to be this butthole so much. Yeah, it's like, dude.
All right, so let's see. Let me see if I can flip over to my next book. Oh no, it's the other way. Did it? I'll figure out a better way to show these covers another time. So Dead Lucky is an image book that I picked up. I've been pretty excited about checking this particular series out. That's a regular cover. I didn't is this book does, as a variant cover fan, has some spectacular covers. If you haven't looked at them, go to League of Comic Geeks or Previews World or something like that. Check out some of the covers that are up there. It's just some great stuff. But so I've been reading Radiant Black and that sort of whole, I think they call it the massive verse.
Okay, I wondered if
Um,
that was a part of that. It looks like that
It
look,
it is said that
the
it is
the
in that
radiant look.
universe,
Okay.
but I don't know where it is, which is fine.
Right.
They're saying it's part of it. That's great. Um, so have you read any Radiant Black or any of that?
I've read the first couple issues of Black, the first issue of Red. Was that
Right.
the other
Yeah.
one? I think those are the only 2 I've read.
Okay. So, and then there's Rogue Sun that's out. Red was a 5 issue miniseries. I think this is solicited as a miniseries. Dead
Okay.
Lucky is, but it could go more. Now, if you've read anything about Radiant Black, them saying that Dead Lucky is part of that universe does not make any sense to me, but it doesn't say when in the universe it fits. It just says it's part of that universe. So that's cool. Um this issue is about I forget what her name is. I think it's like Bobby or Babby or something like that. Um she is a war vet who is now trying to sort of uh, get back into civilian life. And so we open up with her at in a therapy session, sort of talking about stuff. Therapist doesn't think she's taking it too seriously. She talks a lot out loud. There is no narration in this book, by the way. It is literally her breaking fourth wall, talking to the reader. But she's not talking to the reader. She's just supposedly talking out loud, and she has just sort of made it known to her family and her friends that this is a therapeutic way for her to deal with uh, her trauma from the war. And so people just kind of like, oh well, yeah, we heard that's what you do. So it's a lot of this book is her just talking out loud, describing what she's walking into, seeing someone across the room, all of the narration things, but it's all dialogue bubbles.
Okay.
So it's a very interesting way to do that. Um the the neighborhood that her family's in, they have a restaurant in this neighborhood. It is being protected by this uh, organization that has robots that are sort of patrolling the area to make it safe. There's a gang that is moving into areas around them that are, taking over the neighborhoods and taking over the businesses and killing people and all this other stuff. And so they're like, we're here to protect you, but we can only be in the neighborhood to protect you if you want us to be. If you don't want us to be, then we leave, and then your neighborhood's just going to get run over. But this particular neighborhood is a fairly poor neighborhood, and so in order to stay there, they're saying they need to be paid for their services. So is it a racket, or what? Those kind of things it's kind of loosely, explained.
I don't know if the settings were the 1920s, that would be called a protection racket. I
Yes,
mean,
yeah, and that's
so
exactly how it reads. So
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 it's
it's not like, hey, we're here to protect you from our other gang. It's we're here to protect you from that other really violent gang. Now we're not a violent gang. They're a violent, that kind of thing. That's how it
Right.
reads.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
So we have robots. They don't, that kind of thing. So anyway, and I'll call her Bobby just because I can't remember. It's Babby or something like that. But either way, she's got a friend of hers, a mechanic, who has built a suit of armor for her that is much bigger than the other. Basically, she's going to be the neighborhood protector. And now, what I haven't said is she has electrical abilities. So if you look on the cover here, if you're watching on YouTube, her hand has got like little energy thing. She's full on electro in this. And so she uses her abilities to power up the suit. And then, anyway, so the suit ends up getting really sort of manhandled in this issue. And she, lashes out with her electrical abilities to the gang that, has come in or whatever. Ends up hurting her friend and all this. And so she's having to deal with that. But again, still breaking the fourth wall, talking to the reader about what's going on and things like that. And so there's a bit going on. Now, what you find out, sort of, we don't really find out what happened to her in the war, as far as, but we're led to believe some or all of her unit were killed off in a mission of some kind, and she is being quote unquote haunted by them, by their memory and stuff like that. But at the end of the issue, um, they may not be haunting her psychologically, they may be haunting her on a different spectrum level, because she can see like electrical imprints of them, when she is looking through whatever her vision is.
Right.
And so it's a really interesting story so far. Now, there's back matter to it from the writer, sort of explaining sort of concepts and stuff. Um, they had a friend who was in the military who lost their life, and so it's been a very sort of traumatic thing for them, to sort of to get through and and to talk about and everything. And so this was a story of some kind that they wanted to put together. And so meeting with Ryan Parrott, who does, who's created the whole Massiverse, Black, Radiant Black, and all, they work together. The writer Flores was part of the Power Rangers company or whatever. I forgot what actually it says in the back of the issue.
Bandai
But
or
well, let's see. Hold on, I'll pull it up real quick. They say where they met, because it was right here. Oh, it was for many years I was the director of the Power Rangers development and production for Saban.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and that's where they met Ryan, because he was writing Power Rangers for Boom at the time. And so they, got a friendship and everything like that. And so they eventually kind of like, hey, I've got this book and this idea and this and that. And so Ryan's been very supportive about it and helped, sort of develop it and everything. And this is their first comic too, that they've written apparently. So I think it's a really well written book. I think it was paced very well. I think the lead character is very interesting. I think the world that she's in is interesting. I don't know how it plays into the Radiant Black universe, but I don't really care. It's kind of like saying Punisher and Nova are in the same universe.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah, I guess they're in the Marvel universe, but they don't interact. So I kind of look at it from that perspective. So I think there was so much, I think, people trying to connect the two titles before the book ever came out, that once I got reading it, I was like, well, this is I don't know how this is connected. By the time I got to the issue or into the issue, I didn't care. I was like, I just like the book.
Right.
So,
yeah. It doesn't matter that it is or isn't. So,
yeah.
Yeah.
So if it somehow gets connected in a couple issues, cool, whatever. I'm more interested in this book, and then we'll see how it plays later. But yeah, definitely a good, solid first issue. If you've not, checked it out or anything like that, you don't need to be well versed in the Radiant Black universe. It's definitely a good standalone series, or at least issue so far. Uh, so I would definitely recommend checking it out.
Cool beans. All right, my final book is
I'm so excited.
Death Rage from Merc Publishing. Now, I was exposed to this character by reading Miss Meow, which actually I saw that this was going to be coming out, and in the blurb said that his first appearance was in Miss Meow. So I was going to get this anyways, but then so I went back to that and I talked about that last episode, or maybe the episode before. I had the first 2 issues. Very Deadpoolian in his character.
Deadpoolian. I like that.
Yes. It's written by Murphy Aaron Sparrow, illustrated by Emiliano Urdinola and James Silvani. James Silvani, I believe, is the dude that worked on Darkwing Duck. Colored by Gaston Zebeldia, lettered by Joel Rodriguez. And then Tyler Kirkham did the cover, this particular cover. And there are multiple variants, 1, 2. The character was created by Jamie Tyndall, Sean Hudachko, and Murphy, Murphey, Murphy. Yeah, so very interesting character. Blow this up, Chris. Look right here. See on his face? Then see on his belt and on his crotch. But what is that called? A codpiece.
Yeah.
The faces, right? This turns out to be a helmet that he has on. It's a cybernetic helmet. The story in this issue, we find out how and why he is wearing that cybernetic helmet. It's not. It's partially an origin story because we see a partial advancement of the life of Mark. Now, this is the man that is in there, and I like that because he is a gentleman of color, and he is the protagonist because that's him. On his own, he's very quippy, but we find out that this helmet is like a helmet with a plus 19 intelligence. If those of you
nice
know what I'm referring to, and so he is quippy, and he has been cybernetically enhanced. He is a military contractor experiment. The military knew it's military money, but the contractors who actually did the work.
Yeah.
With the idea that we don't want to take this on, but we will give you everything that you need to do the research. And if you come up with a viable product, we will then buy the product because it'll be something we're interested in.
Right.
So it's long-armed R&D, which allows them to bypass any responsibility for what happens if it goes wrong, basically, is what it is.
Yes, his cameo.
Yes, because yes.
That's all that was going through my head.
The red codpiece. That's why I said codpiece. Yep. But it's funny because it's cybernetic like his face, and so they will change if you look real close throughout the book as the face changes. The belt buckle and the codpiece do too.
There's a lot of wiring involved there.
Yeah, I understand the need for a codpiece, Hyper. There are just stages in your life where things like that seem to happen more than they really should for a variety of reasons. Yeah.
Daddy.
Oh, yeah, baby. What is you just want to curl up and cry over that, but you can't show that. It's they didn't do anything wrong.
Nope.
It's just so he's a mercenary, and this story is leading up to, for the most part, his appearance in Miss Meow. The helmet why he is acting in a peculiar way, both there in his Miss Meow and here in the second half of this book. And it's a pretty thick book for the money. Probably 30 pages, 35 pages.
Oh, nice.
So
Nice.
it's a nice one. And it's Deadpoolian, but it's it's also, yeah, really. It's also it takes it, that step farther. Not
Yeah.
way out there, but just that those things that Marvel wouldn't let you do or say.
It's got to
he does.
differentiate itself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No connection with Miss Meow right now,
Hmm.
except that the organization that he works for, who is called Spartan, is what he's doing here at the beginning. And they have some interesting characters here. One is Leonidas, which we should recognize that
I was
name
going
if
to
we know
say.
anything about history. And then he is their quote unquote tank, to throw that word out again. And then there are the twins, Link and Feedback. Link has an energy whip that he can attack someone with.
Hmm.
And when someone is linked with that whip, it draws bioelectric energy from them into Link. He passes that on to his sister, who can then take that energy, like Bishop, expand it by a factor of however much, and expel it as energy blasts.
Oh, cool.
So they work in tandem. The
Yeah.
one dude weakens the opponent, and then she obliterates the opponent, feedbacking, giving them back that power. That is the Merc group that he works for. And I believe I kind of tried to get into this a little bit with Miss Meow. Instead of having superhero groups like you do in Marvel, Avengers, Defenders, Fantastic Four, etc., you have Merc groups in this world who vie for attention. They vie for contracts. They vie for people to join them, things like that. So that's the setup. Good, interesting book. I have never been the biggest Deadpool fan, and I think that some of that has been because of how he's been written, not necessarily the character. The quote unquote Merc with a mouth doesn't really bother me. The goofy breaking the fourth wall does. It's not, it's just not the kind of thing that I'm into. I didn't even necessarily like it when She-Hulk did it, and so I'm kind of a bit trepidatious about watching this She-Hulk miniseries coming up, because I understand that's going to be a pretty big component in that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's interesting as an explanation, an origin of the character, to see why he was the way he was, because he was kind of weird in Miss Meow. And then this goes a little bit further in the first part, and then we get into the leading up to almost, like a circling around of the story.
Right.
His first appearance, and then that went a little bit further in the first part of this story, and then we cut to his true beginnings leading up to his appearance in Miss Meow that went into the first part of this book.
Right. Cool.
Good stuff. Again, lots of eye candy. Let me see here. Here's a pretty good page. Eye candy there.
Man, it's good stuff.
Yeah. So good stuff.
Cool. That's very, very nice. Very nice. All right. So last book of the evening, I struggled for what to talk about for this one, because I've read quite a few books, which was good for me. But it was stuff that I've already talked about here on the show before. So I decided to go with the DC book, Dark Crisis on Infinite. Well, it's now on Infinite Earths.
Did the Justice Society appear in that?
Yes.
Okay.
Which was excellent. I am, to give you very brief, I'm a old school DC fan. I'm not a huge fan of a lot of the new stuff. That's not anything wrong with what anybody's doing.
It sucks.
Okay. I just, I've read a lot of it. It just, doesn't ring for me, the way other stuff used to.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean it's bad. I'm just not into it. So that's fine. But when it comes to DC events, crisis events, I find myself reading them for some reason. I think I've read all of them, and I may not be reading any DC book at the time, but for whatever reason, I've been reading since Infinite Crisis. I mean, that was what I sort of cut my teeth on. Um, the tail end of that, I didn't pick it up from the very beginning, and actually, an old buddy of mine is the one who was the one that introduced me to it. So anyway, um, but yeah, I've just been, as far as how old school, I started reading DC comics in the mid 80s, so 84, 85 ish, maybe
Blue Beetle,
80.
Captain Atom.
Yeah, I mean, um, Millennium. I hate to say this, Millennium was like the hugest deep dive that I ever did on DC. Well, not ever, but that's what I did the deep dive as a fan.
Mm.
Up until that point, it was reading a lot of Teen Titans was my favorite thing, still is.
George Perez.
Read a lot of Batman and the Outsiders. I read Batman a lot, read Superman some here and there, but read a lot of Detroit Justice League. That was
Mm.
sort of my era. Yes, I
You,
did listen to Tom versus the Justice or JLA or whatever.
did you know that Batman and the Outsiders has a show?
No, I did not know that.
There's a Batman and the Outsiders podcast. Yes.
Oh, that'd be good because that stuff was I thoroughly enjoyed that book.
Chris,
Yeah.
ask, dog. I run
Oh, I
into stuff
know,
like this
I know.
all the time, man.
I know that's your thing, but you also have to remember I can't listen to everything.
No, but it may be something that like will take the place of something because
Oh,
you're
for
more
sure, yeah.
interested in it.
Oh yeah. So I did read this book. I did only pick up this cover, which is the Red Canary character cover. Red Canary shows up for one panel in this, or this character shows up in one panel. No big deal. I picked it up because I'm a big Green Arrow, Black Canary fan. And so this character is inspired by those two characters. So I thought it'd be a good issue to pick up. Plus, it was a regular priced cover. So I was like,
cool.
yeah. So I was afraid once I got to the store because I saw the cover. I was like, oh, well, that'd be a thing I would pick up. And I was afraid I was going to get there. It's going to be like a 1 in 10 or a 1 in 25.
10, 1 in 25.
And I was like,
oh, damn.
and it was just there in stack with all the other books. I'm like, yes, sir, we'll be picking that one up. Not to say that the other cover is really good. I'll pull it up again. This is a really good cover. I thoroughly enjoy that. But the other one spoke to me a little more, so that's why I picked that one up. So if you've not read Dark Crisis on Infinite Earths, I mean, it's definitely for diehard DC fans, I think. I think if you've just come into reading DC books over the last year, I think you'd enjoy it as well because it does focus on a lot of the newer characters. But the sort of, I hate to say the funny thing about it is because this series is definitely Deathstroke killing everybody, but it is it's very apparent that these new characters are not ready or they're not ready for prime time is basically what's happening. And so this particular miniseries is sort of explaining that and that they think they're ready for everything. And if there's some commentary, Joshua Williamson is writing this, and I feel like he's pretty good as far as having his thumb on the pulse of what's going on at DC Comics. But the premise of this is that Pariah has is sort of in control of the Great Darkness now, and in doing so has somehow quote unquote killed the Justice League. And the only survivor of that was Black Adam. He arrives on Earth explaining, oh my God, Pariah has killed the Justice League. We need to do something because he's coming for the Earth. And what Pariah is trying to do is rebuild the multiverse in his own image, sort of in a Monitor kind of, I don't know. It's really weird. His motivation, I haven't really gotten yet. It's just a lot of he's the big bad, but at the same time, he's influencing Deathstroke, and Deathstroke has sort of become the the crime boss. He is the he's the villain's boss kind of thing now. He is the head honcho of all the villains on Earth somehow, and so he has got a lot of the C and D list villains working for him. He's throwing them at the heroes. He is basically in the last issue, he there was a one-on-one fight between him and Nightwing, where Nightwing pretty much whipped his butt in hand-to-hand combat, and then Deathstroke just said, "All right, well, we've played around long enough." Like he was toying with him, and then went to go shoot him, and Jonathan Kent got in the way, obviously blocking the bullets, and then there a whole fight ensued and whatever. But Titan's Tower gets destroyed, because that's what you do with Titan's Tower if there's a fight, is you have to destroy it. If you know anything about Teen Titans history. um but it's this issue sort of explains what the heroes are finally understanding, what Deathstroke's up to. It's more not about stopping the heroes, it is wearing the heroes down, and that there's some bigger plot that Deathstroke is got cooking, and they're starting to realize that Black Adam is dead set on not just creating a new Justice League, but creating a defensive force that can stop Pariah and Deathstroke. But the heroes don't want to kill. They just, that's just not what they do. And so, and Titan's Tower, Hyper Potato Titan's Tower has been destroyed more often than the bathroom at Taco Bell. That is
Sorry about that.
100% correct. You know what I'm talking about. So, so it's sort of Black Adam. He realizes, yes, these heroes, these new heroes, have the best intent. They have the skill, but don't have the experience yet. They aren't what he needs to fight off Pariah and Deathstroke. And so he goes off to find, he goes off to a very familiar swamp and finds the Legion of Doom. Luther in his green armor and everybody else, all the A-list villains are there because they see what Deathstroke is trying to do. And as much as the villains have wanted to, they fight the heroes, none of them want the world destroyed, because if the world is destroyed, what's left for them to do? And so, it's like, I don't want to destroy the world because I need something to rule, that kind of thing. And so Black Adam shows up at the end of the issue, is like, all right, it's time we put a team together. But at the same time, when he leaves the younger heroes and the Titans and everything, that's when the Justice Society shows up. And they're like, how about us old timers show you youngsters sort of, how it's done. And then there was even a comment, I think it was Wildcat, that even said, you probably should have come to us in the first place. That kind of like, yeah, he's right. You probably should have. But it's, what is this? 7-issue miniseries. This is the 3rd issue. So next issue is going to end up being, where, I guess the big, I don't say the meat of the miniseries is, but I do think it's, something's big. It's big things are happening, but something really big is going to happen. In this particular issue, also, Hal Jordan has taken the Green Lanterns to the Black Lantern, because so Necron's got something. There's a lot of other moving pieces that go with this, but the gist of this is that Black Adam now is taking the Legion of Doom to be the protectors, and the Justice Society are coming in to help the younger Justice League members and the Teen Titans and whatever. So again, much like any other Crisis event, it is every character in here. And I will say that the art, I forget who the artist is. Let me look real quick. He is doing a phenomenal job. This is, that's always the worry that I have with these kind of big character books, that it's gonna it's going to lose something. Daniel Sampier is doing the pencils. He and Daniel Henriquez and Danny Miki are doing the inks. And then Alejandro Sanchez is doing the colors, and Tom Napolitano is doing the letters. So solid creative team on there. And I have thoroughly been enjoying the art in it. Again, it's just one of those things. There's a worry, is it going to be any good? And or is it going to fall off? 3 issues in, definitely not falling off. I'm pretty sure they are on schedule, so that's a good thing. Now I'm not picking up the other. There's a mini series with the Young Justice with Cassie Wonder Girl. She's in it. I'm not picking that up. I didn't pick up any of the Road to Dark Crisis. I might pick up 1 or 2. Like there's some one shots called World Without whatever the hero's name is. There's a Green Arrow one. I probably will pick that one up. There's a Green Lantern one that probably spins out of this issue because of events in here. Maybe the Green Arrow one probably is the only one I know for sure I'll be picking up. But I want to see the crux of the story happening in this miniseries.
I think the Flash title is pretty involved in this too.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to say. The only like ongoing series that I know is crossing over in it is the Flash, and I already pick up the Flash, so that's not going to be an extra purchase for me. I'm already going to be picking that up. So,
Okay.
but yeah, so it's been fun so far. I have been disappointed in these things before, so if I'm disappointed by the time we get to the end of this, it won't be anything new. I will more than likely pick up the next one when it comes in a couple of years, because it's a crisis event, and that's the only thing DC knows how to do every 5 years. So we'll see. So far, I'm enjoying it. So I guess that's a good thing.
All right, cool beans, man. Yeah.
All right. Anything else?
Yeah. One more thing, just for folks to keep their eyes open.
Mm-hmm.
You'll see.
Oh, yes.
There may be a reason why. I have 2 of these.
Yep.
Wrath of God by there, Aaron Lopresti, but you can't tell because it's backwards. Aaron Lopresti, Eltab, Keown, and Montgomery.
Mm-hmm.
So
we're talking about doing some kind of contest for that. We'll probably do another one of our low key, contests.
One is open because I've read it, and the other is still taped up just like I got it.
Cool. Awesome. And that was from his Kickstarter?
Indiegogo.
Okay.
Yeah.
So no, he's got a couple, or he's had a couple things. I think he's got maybe he's got one that's going on right now. So.
Yeah, this just came through probably this past weekend, so it's just finishing up. I would love to talk about the book, but if we're going to give it away, that wouldn't really be fair. But this is a Western story, and it's a really good story. The art in it is as eye candy as any of the other books that I showed this week. So I
really dig Lopresti stuff. Yeah,
it's really good.
Cool. So
and that's all.
Yeah, we'll talk about a contest next episode. But again, it'll be something pretty. You know how we do. We do low key. We don't want you breaking your back. But we do want to provide some kind of challenge. We just don't want to give it away for. Oh wait, we are giving it away for free. So. All right. So come by the website, comicaddiction.net. That's where all of the shows are located. All the episodes, you can check that out. You can come by our forums, which is over at justanotherfanboy.freeforums.net. That link is in the show notes in case you can't remember all of that. You can email us at comicbookaddict@gmail.com. Follow us on Twitter. Follow the show at Comic Addiction. Follow Ed at Teal Productions. Follow me at Chris Parton. Those are the best ways to get in touch with us if you're ever wanting to talk about something that we've done on the show. You can obviously come by the YouTube, check us out. We keep these shows up in our feed, so you can go back and comment and stuff like that. But if you want to ask us something directly, Twitter's usually the best way. You can DM us or just reply to us on Twitter. We will get with you as soon as we can. Or you can email us if you want to ask us something on the show in particular. We haven't had anybody send us any emails, which is cool. We have folks in the chat, so we have some banter that goes back and forth. So as always, we've got Doug's in here, and Hyper Potato, and Mike Myers is starting to be a little more of a regular. And then we've had a couple folks last episode that joined us, so we appreciate all of you that do that. Hyper Potato is absolutely correct. You're coming by the YouTube. Hit the like button for the YouTube video. Subscribe to the YouTube. We only have 23 people who are subscribed, but we definitely have more than that who come by the site and check out the show. So do that. You can, if you hit the bell, I guess it sends a reminder, those kind of things. One of these days I'll understand YouTube. But yeah, so I do we'll do things to help us, to get people involved. But yeah, come by, check out the podcast. If you listen to us after the fact, after Thursdays, when we do the show live, you can check us out on all the different podcast catchers. Definitely Spotify, Apple Music, all those things. We're all over that stuff. So if you are able to leave us a review, that'd be awesome. Not necessary. You can definitely listen to us for free and no efforts beyond that. Even if you listen to us at 2 times speed, which is probably interesting. Both of us at twice speed. That I'll probably have to go back and listen to that. But yeah, so leave us a review if you want. If not, cool, no big deal. Just glad that you're listening and you're watching. I think that's it. We're good?
Yep.
All right. This is episode 143. Next week is 144. Appreciate all of you checking us out here on YouTube and on the podcast. Ed, as always, thank you, sir, for joining me. We will catch all of you next week. Goodbye.
Ciao.
All right, folks. It is 11:30 my time, so we're not going to have any banter here after the show. Ed and I will probably talk a little bit afterwards, but after we disconnect. But thanks to all of y'all for coming by. Doug, Hyper, Mike. I think Mike's already gone, but definitely hanging out with us until the end of the show. And Hyper, you're a busy man. You are a busy man, sir. Keeping the chat going. So your commentary is exactly what we need to keep us going. All right, but we'll catch you guys next week. See you.
Thanks, Doug. Hyper.